Alrighty. No time like the present, yeah? We'll go to just me for a moment, and then we start pulling people in. We will flip to the book club screen. Let me make sure my captions are on. Let me make a quick webcam adjustment while we're doing our intros here. Hello, everyone. It is Friday, and it is time for the Club of Books. There we go. Hello. As you all know, we're discussing the Poppy War. And I have two lovely friends of mine that are going to be joining me in just a few minutes here. Just as some real quick housekeeping, we are skipping a month of book club, so instead of doing one for September, we're going to skip straight to October. The reason for this is basically just my September is going to be really fucking busy, and I want to make sure that I don't promise something that I then can't follow up on. So we're going to be taking a month off so that I can go do a bunch of travel and IRL stuff, basically. But we'll be back with it. I'm not giving up on it. It's just a little break for scheduling purposes. So there's that. We will have the community night stream and the Elden Ring stream soon-ish. I've got to do some logistical nonsense and look at a calendar and see when the best days for that would be. But I haven't forgotten about them. They're still coming. Just life. Love the hat. Thank you. We went for a cozy today because I got rained on the way home. I was just saying I haven't. Hi Zenil. I was just saying I haven't forgotten about the thing. I'm here, but also on 14. To be fair, I was mostly trying to bully Becca into playing. That was just kind of a proxy. But, not mad about it. Your shitpost in the Discord was pretty good. I showed that to Accent Thor, just looks at me and goes, damn it. So that was pretty good. But yeah, I said those are the big things, is that we're taking a month off of book club for scheduling purposes, and then we'll be back with it hopefully in October. And then we are still planning on doing the community night stream and the special Elden Ring stream that y'all voted for. I just haven't figured out days for those yet. They're coming, I promise. They just might be a little spread out, so that way we don't take 12 years to finish Rechain of Memories. I was proud of myself. I did like it. Alright, so I will go ahead and flip to our little book club setup. I don't know. Y'all, I'm proud of this screen. Sentinel coming in with the Becca wobbles. I love my version of that emote, and I'm kind of mad that it's not on Twitch, but also Twitch is taking 1,000 years to approve anything. Leaf, I don't know why you say that. Am I supposed to be shocked? Am I supposed to be? If you think I'm gonna be surprised, I'm not. I know! Look, I will go look literally right now. But I don't think Twitch has approved the waddles yet. Twitch has not approved the waddles yet. I was right. We're still waiting. The only, yeah, I said of everything I uploaded, Twitch has only approved one of them so far. I'm still waiting on all the other ones. Anyway, I'm gonna pull people into the Discord and we'll do some introductions and go from there. No, not invite to server. Hello?
Hello.
Hello. Let me get... And we're all here now.
Yeah, no, I didn't expect you to be surprised.
Okay.
I was, you know, I may or may not be.
May or may not be. I see how it is. Alright. So I've done that so I can put Discord in the background. Cool, cool, cool. I need to be a little more careful to stay in frame this stream. Okay. Toss the dice. Hello. How are you? Welcome in. Take a seat. Enjoy yourself. All that good stuff. Will, I know Lottie is still kind of getting stuff done on her end, but would you like to give a little introduction, Leaf,
Wait, of myself or of the book?
of you?
Oh,
There. I can hear everyone now.
There you are.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's a belated hello because I apparently did not have all my audio set correctly.
LMAO, it really do be like that sometimes.
Sorry, one second. My
They
housemate
really
has just
do.
walked in to ask me a question.
All good.
You can still go outside. Apparently, he doesn't want to go outside because I'm on stream.
What?
Oh, goodness.
How is that related?
I have my webcam on, and it points at the door that goes outside.
Ah, I mean, as long as he's not like naked, I guess.
He's not naked. He's wearing full pants and everything. You also might hear me pisting at the cat because the cat came home today.
Yes.
That might happen.
Well,
We love cats.
I was just in the middle of making Leaf introduce himself.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
you do
my
that while I
favorite.
fix my audio for stream.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi. I am the Leaf. I am the raid leader on the FF Nights. So it's usually my voice you hear yelling at people to do mechanics. Final Fantasy is definitely my main game, but I do enjoy other games like Stardew Valley, Civ, Total War Empire. And I'm actually the one who has been badgering this lovely human to include the Poppy War because it's an amazing book. So I am very happy that my persistence has paid off.
To be
I'd
fair,
like it stated for the record that I read it the first time you said I should read it.
Good.
it's been on my TBR for a while. I just literally didn't own the book, and time is a thing that exists.
Oh god, there's a boop. Boop.
Boop. Would you like to? Do you have any personal connection to the book? Anything like that?
I ironically, when I had the app on my phone, I found it through TikTok. Because there was like, when I was on TikTok, there was like I was deep in the woods on book talk. You know how it be.
Yeah, same.
And I saw someone talking about the book, and I immediately got hooked because I'm like, historical fiction, fantasy, a morally gray heroine.
For those who don't know, you only need like 2 of those 3 things to get Leaf to read whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, technically
You only
need
need
one of those things.
You're right.
Exactly. But the fact that it had all 3, I was like, I am intrigued. So the next time that I went to a bookstore, I found the Poppy War, and I think I read it within 2 days.
Hoping
So,
to retrieve a cat
you know.
at some point for chat. But he has meowed, but is not within eye shot, so.
Well, would you like to introduce yourself for stream?
Hello, I'm one of the tanks from Final Fantasy, and you've probably heard me a whole bunch, usually swearing loudly at other people.
Fucking mood.
I know,
Fucking mood.
And I am the person that has read over 200 books this year so far, including the Poppy War.
Yep.
So I decided to join book club.
I love that you included so much in your introduction except your name.
Hi, I'm Lottie.
I'm just giving you shit, you're fine.
We love to see it.
Oh, I love that for you.
It's been a day.
Yo, same?
Also same?
Did
why?
you get stuck in a Walmart parking lot again?
No, I did not. However, today has been much of a blur, and I got to see my classroom for the first time.
Exciting.
So I am excited.
Exciting.
Would you like to tell the chat the new unfolding news?
Before
Oh,
you do
sure.
that, do we all have wine so we can cheers you?
I do not have wine.
There is not wine in this house at the moment, tragically.
Clearly, I need to drink for all three of us.
Exactly.
There is only beer in this household, and no thank you.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Drink for all three of us. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah, I think
It's fine.
technically we.
I will take one for the team.
You sound so hurt.
Also, hello, Sapphire. I do see
Just
you.
completely heartbroken. Just,
Yeah.
it's the worst thing in the world. I definitely did not already have a glass of wine sitting here.
Oh, definitely not.
But a metaphorical toast to news.
Cheers
Woohoo.
to news. Tell us
so,
the news.
chat. I will be starting as a long-term English as a second language substitute for a local elementary school.
That's so exciting for
So,
you.
That's gonna be so cute.
Yes.
I can just imagine you having an absolute aneurysm about everybody's grammar. It's gonna be great.
Well, see, but then the best part about that is that I get them while they're young, so I can teach them the right way.
Yeah,
That's
I can actually
then-
teach them that the Oxford comma is valid.
So then the follow-up question here is, what ages are you teaching?
I'm literally teaching elementary school, so literally from 5 to 10/11.
Books are not boring, Chris. Sorry, my chat.
Ah, okay.
Your chat is uncultured.
True.
My chat is uncultured. It's book club night, guys. Get with the program.
You gotta at least pretend to like books. Come on now. All right.
Also, apparently I somehow have 2 chat boxes, which...
What?
I'm not even
Okay.
gonna deal with that for right now, but hey.
Oh, 2 on your stream, you mean?
Yes.
Ah.
I have no idea where one came from, but it's there.
I don't know. I guess to kick things off, I have like a quote that gives like a very short synopsis via NPR, so I'll read that off, and then Leaf, whatever you want to add on synopsis-wise, we can do that.
Okay.
So from NPR, The Poppy War is the story of passionate yet ruthless Fang Runin, also known as Rin, who grows up poor, orphaned by a previous war. But she studies and gets into an elite military academy and develops a gift for shamanism that lets her call upon the fire powers of a vengeful phoenix god. And obviously that's like 10% of the book, but...
Yeah.
Did you fall down?
I
The dog just fell over.
Oh my god.
well, I guess the only thing missing from your synopsis is that there are drugs.
Oh yes.
There are so many
So
drugs.
many drugs.
So many drugs.
So many drugs.
There are...
Drugs,
and I guess also,
genocide.
Yeah.
Hey, no.
What
We don't
else?
talk. We don't talk about that. Just like we don't talk about Bruno. It's
Bruno.
fine.
God, okay. Well, I have a list of things, but I am gonna skip around
Sure.
for like 2 seconds just because
Oh,
I put
hang on. I might be able to catch a cat. Oh, cat.
cat.
Hang on. Kitty, kitty. Come
Cat.
here. Give cat, please. Give
Yeah.
cat, please.
Nobody on my stream can see the cat, but that's okay.
It's okay. Chat.
Unfortunately not.
My chat. Hello, cat. Please say hello to the kitty.
Everyone in my chat can also say hello to the kitty. You just can't see them.
Everybody say hello to the kitty.
Hello, baby.
Leaf,
He
you
does
wouldn't happen to
snuggles.
know how to set up a multi-stream, would you?
I do.
Okay, I was just gonna say
I do not.
the audio
Um,
will be the same, but just for anyone who wanted both cameras.
The problem is I have a cat. So
No,
hold
I
on.
know. I'm not talking
Let
about.
me-
I know. You're fine.
I think I can do that one-handed while the cat rubs against my microphone.
I was just gonna get Leaf to do it
Ooh.
since he's the one not streaming at the moment.
Oh boy, I just
Yeah, I
made
have
my-
no idea how to do that, Chief.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I'll talk about the
Hold
author for a
on.
little bit while you're doing that.
Yeah,
Ah,
you do
R.F.
that while I do
Kuang.
this.
Fun fact: Rebecca F. Kuang.
Hello,
Oh,
sir.
I didn't
You
know
did-
that the
Ow,
R stood
thank
for
you.
Rebecca.
Google.
You know, we love to see it.
Yep. But no, she has studied like modern Chinese history, which you can, you know,
Yeah.
you can fucking tell.
Yeah, I saw the note from the author.
Yep, and then most of this is from the note from the author because I thought it was really
Yeah.
neat. This is her debut novel, which is quite good for a debut novel, by the way.
And she made it into a trilogy. Like,
Is it a trilogy? Okay, that's what I was
it's a
gonna ask you.
trilogy. I want the second book so
Okay.
much.
I make you a link here for yours, chat,
Yeah, sounds good.
and I make a link for my chat.
Where is Linky?
Hang on, I must
I
retrieve
can
cat.
put it in chat. Oh, there are ducks. I heard the ducks.
I have the link.
Okay.
Let me.
I'm just gonna stay on your stream, Perline, just so I can do mod things
No, you're fine.
pretty swiftly and efficiently.
It's just for the people that want it, because I know some people
Yeah.
like to see the different yeah. So
Stay, please.
y'all should be able to.
Okay, now you should see Kitty.
Hey, okay. Stream Elements has got me now. Sick. Okie doke. But the
Yay.
other thing I was gonna say that I thought was cool is when the Poppy War came out, a bunch of people like emailed Kuang about like nonfiction resources relating to stuff like Japanese relations and like China and World War II and all that stuff. So in the back of at least this particular copy, there's actually like a list of books that she recommends if that kind of stuff interests you, which I just love.
I'm sorry. Where is this?
Is this not in your copy?
Maybe not.
It's in the back.
This is sad.
I have a note from the author all the way in the back.
Oh,
I
hey.
had the digital copy, so
okay,
I'm the
we're
worst
good.
possible person for this.
We're good.
That's fine.
It is in mine.
Okay, good. I'm glad I've enlightened you to the fact that that exists. But no, just I found out that she did that and felt obligated to include that just because I love that that exists.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much just a moment of like
Hello, chat. Say hello to the cat again.
nerds and nerds.
While he snuggles.
I have to be right back. I have to go check on a dog real quick.
Oh lord, okay.
Perline, come look at the cat.
Oh god, hold on.
Look at him do snuggles.
Hold on. If I pull you off my computer, my sound will get borked. I gotta pull you up on my phone. Oh, he layin'.
First day home.
I said, I see he's settled in nicely.
What do you think? You like it here?
Oh my goodness. He's so cute.
There we go. He moves himself and he doesn't use claws, so we're fine.
Hello,
He's a very
Nuke.
polite boy.
How
Except
are
he
you?
keeps going on my balcony, so we have to mesh in my balcony so that he doesn't escarper.
Yeah. Yeah. You maybe don't want that.
Maybe.
I have this book on my shelf. It's on my TBR. We are going to be talking spoilers in this stream, so if you need to duck out to not get spoiled, that's totally fine.
Hang on, guys.
But I appreciate you showing up either way. Hello.
It's Scoot. Say hello to Scoot, everyone.
Hello, Scoot.
Everyone says hello.
I did not mention that, Toss the Dice, because I did not know that she did that. That's really cool.
What?
Apparently, the author is also into, like, Lord of the Rings and has, like, given lectures on it and stuff, which is neat, and I did not know, because...
That is also very neat.
Yeah, I did a little bit of Google searching and, like, poked around on her website a little bit, but I wanted... Well, I didn't want to just, like, rattle off her, like, multiple degrees.
I mean, you could always rattle off multiple degrees.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't understand what all of them are.
Fair.
Okay.
That's reasonable.
I probably do.
It's fine. Well, let me ask the most important question, which is, do we start with positives or criticisms?
Why don't we start with positives so we can start on a good note?
AKA before Thomas tries to fight me.
Yeah,
Yes.
fair enough.
To be fair, most of my criticisms are not like, this book sucks. It's me just being like, ah.
I mean, also a
Did
whole
you
mood. I have my
finally
moments.
finish it? Is the next question.
Why are you saying finally like it took me a long time?
Because I finished it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, I didn't start it until Monday.
Well,
To be fair, she did do that on purpose.
Yeah, so for anyone who doesn't know, I wait to start the book club book until the week of, so it's fresh in my brain.
that's fair.
That is a purposeful choice that I make.
Do not do that
Mhm.
because I have problems called I read too much.
Oh no, trust me, I read before.
No, there's no such thing.
The problem is that if I read the book 3 weeks ago, I would read other things in the meantime, and then not remember all of this as well. That's why we wait.
I 100% did that and read that today. Like 100%.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
we'll come back to that.
what positives do we want to start with first?
I mean, if we want to start in the beginning of the book, I do like the immediate thing of like, hey, this girl's smart. Like,
Yeah.
not in the way of like the characters are just saying that she's smart, but like in the way that she just is, I guess.
Yeah, like they actually prove to you that she can hold her own.
Right, and then not only does she hold her own, she does above and beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Jang.
I don't know
if that's I don't know if that's a positive for the book as a whole or me just really liking this character.
Okay, but he's a goofball.
I love this
but
man.
also like he's a really good mentor.
I love
Like,
this man.
I really do enjoy Jang.
And he ends up being like such a cool character.
Right. And when she gets back to him in the mountain, he's just like, "You woke me up? Excuse you?"
I know.
The best part is the like, no, I'm not teaching you anymore. You're like, no, just no. And then she shows up at the mountain and is like, oh, but I came to save you. And he's like, but instead, actually, go fuck yourself.
I mean, his whole thing, right, is he's like, I put myself here, you dumb idiot. What are you doing?
Yeah,
To be fair,
100%.
he did tell her to go fuck off when she said, "Yes, I'm going to go and go along with this plan of releasing these powerful demigods
Yeah.
onto the continent, who are just basically gonna obliterate everything." And he's like, "Chief, I can't really go with that."
Yeah. Let's back up for like 2 seconds. So, because for anyone out of context, that makes no sense.
True.
So basically, when Jang becomes Rin's teacher at some point in the story and starts teaching her shamanism, which has to do with like communing with gods and such. But he's sort of like against like calling them back down to earth to like do things because gods are really powerful and they can really fuck you up and it's like a whole thing. She does it anyway, which to her credit, it was either do it or fucking die, so like fair. So she ends up with a small military unit because the whole thing, right, is she ends up at this elite military academy. The whole nation goes to war. All the students get drafted into different divisions. She gets drafted into a small division of people who are also shamans like she is. Things go quite badly, which we will also talk about because we're going to jump around a little bit and hopefully I will be a little more organized with that in the future. But for now, but they go to a mountain, which effectively is where people go when they can no longer like balance or control the power of the god inside of like their human vessel, and that's where they go to like hang out since they can't like actually die, but also if you let them stay out, they would basically destroy the planet.
Basically destroy the planet. You mean actually destroy the planet?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So Alton, cause holy fucking shit, this dumb boy.
Oh my god, the dumb boy.
Yeah.
That boy makes so many bad decisions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We'll get to him. Don't worry. He's like 3 different bullet points.
Mood.
Oh boy.
Mood.
His plan is to free all of the stupid dangerous shit in the mountain in order to win this war. And of course Jiang's like, "You stupid idiot child. What the fuck is wrong with you?" Which I love because same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That is a huge mood.
Also, we are like really skipping around. We're leaving out a lot
Okay,
of
so
context.
let's start at the beginning,
okay,
right?
sure.
So she's a war orphan,
Yes.
and
And
because
she is
go
she is currently being raised by hella abusive adoptive parents.
let's call them
They
foster
are
parents because they're not even really adoptive parents, and they never actually treated her like they were.
Well, she doesn't
Like,
even call them parents. She calls them aunt and uncle
Yeah.
Fang.
Yeah. So she was raised by these people that were horrifically abusive.
yeah, because during the last Poppy War, which is what these conflicts with the people that they're at war with now are called.
Yeah,
Yes.
The
it's
current
Nakara
Empress,
and the Federation.
the
think.
Federation of Mugen.
Yeah.
And so the current Empress made the declaration that all war orphans would be put with a family. So that basically it was you could not have any child left starving on the streets because of the conflict.
Ideally.
Which was a good policy in theory until you get people like the Fangs.
Well, because isn't the whole
Who-
rule is if you had less than 3 children, you basically had to take a war kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
so.
so they had none, I think, when they got Rin. Then
Yeah.
they put her to work in their store. Then they had their own child
Then they-
and basically told her
Kisage? Kisage? I don't know how you say his
Kisagai?
name.
Yeah. So then they were like, okay, well, Rin is basically slave labor at this point, and our son is gold. So they did that.
To be fair, I
Well,
do actually like their son.
Their son is awesome. Their son
he's
did
just
nothing
also-
wrong in this.
just to make sure that we're on the same page, they're still abusive towards their son.
Oh no, they're
Yes.
not nice to their son.
Oh no.
They're just less mean than they are to Rin.
Yes.
Yeah. Just,
Yeah.
tone down.
So then,
But basically what they do is they make her become part of their drug smuggling operation.
For opium.
which is
Um,
opium.
Yeah, which is opium.
Yes.
And so she
Because
gets
Poppy.
put into that. Yeah, because she gets put into that, and she, goodness, she basically uses their opium smuggling business in order to actually get further on her own.
Because
Yep.
she uses it to bribe a tutor to teach her.
Yes. So in Nakara, there is this whole entire test
The Keiju.
called the Keju. And the Keju is this massive bureaucratic test that anybody can take. And depending on where you play, will depend on where you're put scholarly wise.
Yep.
And if you are put into like the top 1% of all the people who take the test, you get shipped off to the capital military academy that costs nothing, called Synagard. Or
But
like
if
Seingard, however we want to pronounce that.
I've been saying Seingard.
Okay.
But what
I
that
called it
means
Synagard too, so I'm glad I'm not the only one.
it doesn't matter, I don't think. But the whole thing with that is she basically has to test into Seingard because if she tests into one of the lower academies, then there's tuition, and her foster parent people have already said that they won't pay for the tuition.
Let's just call
Um,
them her abusers.
Well, they want to marry her off to some older dude.
And
Yeah,
by
the
older,
Port
we mean old
Authoritarian.
enough to be her grandfather.
Yeah, they want to sell her off to the Port Authority figure so that they can have an easier time smuggling opium into where are they? Rooster Province? Tekeni? I know that they live in Tekeni.
Yep, that's it. I think it is Rooster Province.
think it's Richard
Yeah.
Robbins too, so we'll call it that.
But she goes, LOL no, and is the top test taker in her entire region, and fucking
but-
leaves.
Before that, she has to bribe a tutor named Ferric.
Yeah, no, you just
And-
already said that, so.
Did I? I'm sorry.
No, you're
Yeah,
fine.
so she uses the opium to bribe the tutor because the tutor
he's an
has
opium
this
addict.
whole big gambling problem.
Yep.
And so so basically he uses the opium in order to cover his gambling debts, and she basically uses him in order to pass the Keju. And it goes into like all of these different strategies that she would go into to make sure that she would stay awake and that she would learn. And one thing that she found was that pain helped her focus. And that's something that would like recur all
Becomes a
throughout
little
the book.
thematic.
Yeah, it would recur all throughout the book. And so what she did is she would drop hot candle wax on her arm so that she would force herself to stay awake, and so that would let her memorize more information.
I don't know if you've ever burned yourself with candle wax, but that hurts.
Yeah,
it sucked.
Yep. But no, so that works. She goes
Yeah,
to
she
Signgard or
tests-
Synagogue,
Mhm.
whichever we care.
And when she gets there, she meets the most lovely bean, does she not?
She does.
Neza.
Neza.
She meets the
Neza.
lovely Neza.
So Neza, just to give you a real nutshell on the character, just think like your stereotypical high school jock bully type character, and you've kind of fucking got it.
Except
Literally
worse,
think Draco
somehow.
Malfoy.
No, he's not
Literally
Draco
Draco
Malfoy.
Malfoy.
He's not Draco Malfoy.
Because-
He's not Draco Malfoy.
Mom, he definitely would be. My father would hear about this.
No, he just kick
No.
your ass instead.
Yeah, he's very much so I will solve all my problems by punching them repeatedly. Until
He
I
does
win.
have that tendency.
Yeah, so the reason
Which-
I don't like compare him to Draco is like ultimately Draco's not gonna do much. He's a lot of bark and not a whole lot of bite, frankly.
Yeah,
Neza
Neza
is
definitely
a
likes
lot
to
of bite.
punch people in the face.
I said
Yeah.
Neza will just fucking crack your skull.
Except
Yeah.
Rin does it first.
Right, but that's that's
So,
more out of
When Neza
surprise.
when Neza and Ren meet, Neza insults the tutor.
Feyric.
And yeah, Tutor Ferric, and she decks him for it.
We love
Just
that.
like full bore, like
And it's
punch to the nose. It's
great.
glorious.
Oh, it's fantastic. And
She's
then
like,
before
how
Neza
fucking
can,
dare.
before Neza can do anything, they're broken apart, and the student that breaks them apart goes, "What the hell happened?" And she's like, "He insulted my teacher," and the student's just like, "Well, you should have fucking known better, you idiot."
To be fair, he's the big stupid for a while.
He's the big stupid
Yeah.
all the way through this book and all the way through the next book.
He is also a very privileged TM.
Yes,
Next.
but he's also the big stupid.
Anyway,
Yeah.
but like realistically, long story short, like this school is basically like what you imagine any top academy to be, plus military pressure on top of it.
So
So
Military
without-
Academy.
Right, so like, well, without explaining every single detail of the school, because otherwise we'll be here all fucking day.
Mood.
There's different classes. If you're able to stay in the program long enough, you choose like a focus, and then you move through the academy that way.
Well, a
but everything
master
is
first has to choose you, and then you
Right.
choose the one that
Yeah,
like.
so-
Yes,
if you get
there's-
multiple offers from multiple different masters,
So you
then
do
you
your
could
first
correct.
year.
There's
In
a
your
test.
First year,
There's a
you
test
do your
that's
test.
given, yeah, and then
Yeah.
based on how you do on those tests, the different masters kind of offer their bids to you, and then you choose.
Nobody offers.
Yeah.
You're out.
Yup. Also,
And that's the
if
end
your
of it.
grades, if you slip up too much before then, they'll just fucking boot you, which is terrifying.
Yeah.
But
So you have to have an offer. So you have to get through your testing. You have to have good grades while you get to your testing, and then you have to have an offer from a master to be able to stay.
correct.
And so Rin was terrified she wouldn't have any offers.
And so
at all.
Rin
Which
was
fair.
put at a true, and she was also put at an extreme disadvantage because one day in combat class, her and Nezha are going at it, and the combat master is this very much so autocrat. The nobles are nobles for a reason. Get back to the southern province, you peasant rat.
He's pretty classist.
Yeah,
Just
he
a wee
is.
bit.
I am so happy when that man dies. But anyways,
Can y'all stop? I haven't. We're not there yet.
Spoilers!
Wait, doesn't it happen in this book?
Spoilers, sweetie.
I don't.
Oh well.
I don't think that happens in this book, Thomas.
It does.
Does it?
Yeah, he gets
I thought that
stabbed
happened
with
in
the
this book.
invasion that we haven't got to yet.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Look, you were the
You're
one that was
welcome.
complaining about us skipping around. Don't you fucking dare.
Fair. Well, okay.
Thomas
Fair
likes
enough.
spoilers when they suit him, but not when they suit anybody else.
Anyways, so she gets booted out of combat class, and she thinks that the only way to do that is like study the scrolls inside of the library, and
Which,
this
like,
is when
also
Jiang
fair.
steps in.
Which, thank God.
So she goes up to Jiang's classroom and then is like, I'm going to try and learn from scrolls because I can't actually do combat class, so I'm going to learn from paper.
Yeah, so just
And so-
quick side note, the reason she uses Jiang's classroom is he doesn't really hold a conventional class at a conventional time, so it's frequently very empty. So
By conventional class at
Mhm.
conventional time, we mean his class is scheduled for a time and he just doesn't bother showing up.
And
So-
keep in mind, his classroom is filled with psychedelic plants.
Yes.
But typically, she's able to go up there and do whatever she needs. But of course, she's discovered by, the guy whose classroom it is. And
She's doing it wrong, first off. Because doesn't she fall out of a tree because she's doing it wrong?
to be,
Well, so
she also falls
she
out of the
fell
tree
out
because
of
he
the-
scares the fuck out of her.
Yeah, she falls out of a tree because he startles her.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is
and
hilarious.
he
and I
startled
love
her by
that.
saying that she was doing it wrong.
Yeah, that one. So, like, her doing it wrong certainly didn't help, but also
So-
neither did him walking up and scaring the actual
we-
hell out of her.
Right.
Can we interject briefly to discuss the three famous people?
The
Or is that
trifecta?
later? The trifecta.
Oh, the trifecta. Okay, so background
sure.
history. Nakara was occupied by the Federation for a good half century.
Yep.
And was liberated from the Federation's rule by a trifecta: the Dragon Emperor, the Vipress, and the Gatekeeper. The Dragon Emperor dies before the end of the war, and the war ends by the Federation bombing, basically firebombing an island called Spear. And Spear is the home of Altan, and what you
And all
will
of the-
later find out in
All
the
of the
book.
Spearly. All of them.
Yeah, all of the Spearleys are dead.
Except
Just a little
Altan.
genocide as a
So,
treat.
As a
Think of that
treat!
as a slightly different, I guess, not race, but like almost race of person. So you have your stereotypical people, which Rin believes she's a part of, and then there's the Spearleys, and they are from a different place, and they have different physical characteristics, and they have
So
access to different things than the traditional
Yeah.
people do. So they have access to magic in a way that the traditional people don't.
Yeah, well, it's
The-
ultimately what comes to be known as shamanism, except for they all channel a
Mhm.
specific god, who is the phoenix, who is the god of fire.
Yes.
And it
Meanwhile,
makes them...
Nakara can choose any one of the 4 pantheon gods.
There's
Yes.
more than
So
4,
this-
but continue.
There's the
64.
Spearly.
Yeah.
Spearly were known for a long time as basically being like the penultimate warrior.
But additionally, also the least, like, sophisticated on the other side of
Yes.
that.
So
Mhm.
think like your traditional Viking berserker rage, where they would, but magic. So
Yep.
they would go through and they
Yeah.
would have fire and they would explode things, but they're like as likely to kill their allies as they are their enemies. And there's sort of no midpoint there and no happy medium because they don't understand all of the time what they're doing when they're channeling their god, which is the phoenix. And this is an important theme that comes back repeatedly throughout the book. But it's important to know the backstory of the Spearly before we get
too far. No, you're right.
Yeah.
But the reason we bring up the trifecta is they're like the legendary trio that were ultimately the big spearheads into ending into at least the beginning of the end of the last war. And the whole thing is they're kind of almost mythical at this point. Excuse me. So
because they're all dead, except for Altan.
Well, it's pretty known that the Vipress is still alive, I believe.
Yes, but all the Spearlies except for Altan are dead.
I'm talking about the trifecta.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
The
Vipress is still alive, but everybody else is known to be dead.
The legend is that the gatekeeper is missing, and the Vipress is still around, and then the Dragon Warlord is dead. Yep.
Yeah. So the Dragon Emperor died before the end of the war. How is still kind of in the air, but I think it was a battle somewhere.
I mean, the idea realistically is they're so mythological, it's not like the most relevant detail, as strange as that sounds. The legend has surpassed anything that he ever was, which is kind of the whole thing. Because then it's like, okay, these people were supposedly like shamans that were blessed with like the powers of gods, but then it's been, what, how many years do you think? Because I don't remember the math. Since the second one.
Good question.
It's been
like 30.
Probably
It's
10.
It's been a hot minute, is the point. It's been long enough that because their story has turned into legend enough.
From that.
Right. So it wouldn't be that long, but
Yeah. So like she is a war orphan from that, and at the beginning of the book, she's like what, 12, 13?
She's 16 by the time she takes the Keju. And it takes her 2 years to study, so 14.
Okay. Yeah, so when she takes the Keju, it basically, I'd say probably the Poppy War had been done 10, 15 years ago by that point.
Yeah, so point being, because it has been long enough, details have started to kind of get lost as far as like common knowledge is concerned. So now it's like people don't really like believe in gods outside of like a lot of ceremonial purposes, just because it's a very like secular area. So it's like, oh, the trifecta existed, but they were just great warriors, or oh, the trifecta existed, but it was just like a secret martial arts technique, or oh no, they actually were shamans. There's like this whole kind of air of mystery around those three, where like no one can really decide like who some of them were or what they could really do, which kind of sets this stage of like, okay, so what's the truth, right? And then there's little seeds of that in some of Rin's classes as well, particularly in her strategy class, where they talk about like the reality of some of the past battles versus like the public perception of some of those battles, which I love that idea of like,
so do I.
This is what everyone thinks happens, but the public is easily gullible, and this is how this actually happens.
Well, and we saw that happen in real life too. Like the general public is easily misled.
Right, which is like the whole point, right? Of like that's not a far-fetched parallel at all. That's just it's easy, quote unquote easy. People will believe something en masse if it is convenient for them.
Which made the book so much better for me.
Right. It's so good.
Yeah,
it is.
So we have gone way off, but to bring us back real quick.
I don't know why you're
finish
surprised.
Up the trifecta. I'm not. To finish up the trifecta, the Vipress ends up becoming the current Empress of Nakara. And the Gatekeeper is mentioned, and he's said to be missing at this point. And eventually throughout the book, we actually do get to learn who the Gatekeeper is, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, for now we're just in Jiang with his classroom of psychedelics teaching Rin stuff because he... So Rin doesn't super understand why he's agreed to help her. knowing more about the character later on, you kind of realize that he probably like sees the potential of who she could become and is like, dude, someone's gotta teach you or else you're gonna fucking be a problem.
I
Like,
also just
somebody must teach
enjoy
you
that he
before you become a
goes.
nuclear warhead.
Yep.
Yeah, but I really enjoy the fact that he literally just looks her in the face and goes, well, I think the reason that I'm really teaching you is because I just want to piss off the combat instructor. And honestly, a fucking mood because that guy is a dick.
So to be
He
fair,
is.
June is not the nicest man. I do sympathize with him a little bit, like later, in the sense of just like man's just doing his best in war times.
Yes.
But like
But please,
right now, fuck it. This is a child. Shut up.
please also note that Jang's teaching involved carrying a pig to the top of a mountain and back.
So
But-
yeah, to segue from that, Jiang's teaching
Mhm.
methods are maybe not the most reasonable. Or like
But
logical.
they are very long-term oriented. And
Right,
Rin eventually figures it out.
Right, well that's the whole thing with Jiang is like a lot of ideas he presents to her at first like don't make any sense because she's a
Mhm.
child. So it's like, okay, you have to carry this pig up and down the mountain every day. And she's like, the fuck, why? And by the end of it, it's like, oh, I have a lot of stamina now.
And
Or
I
like,
have
hey,
muscles.
but like,
Right.
I'm in my 30s, and that took me forever to figure out while I was reading this. Like,
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not. There's no way on this green Earth or the next one that I'm carrying a pig to the top of a mountain.
So
Y'all
what,
can get fucked.
when I say what I mean, like she's a child, it's she has a lot of impatience in her, particularly towards the beginning of her time with him.
I
Where
might
like,
also have
Mhm.
some impatience.
I'm not saying I wouldn't, but I think some of that comes from her literally being 16.
Like,
Yeah.
fair, but 16-year-old me had more patience than 32-year-old me does.
I mean that's case by case for sure, but I think
100%.
but I think for Rin particularly, like she was just
Yeah.
such a kid of like I have to do it now. If I don't do it now, I'm fucked. And Jiang is like, well, get fucked then because this isn't gonna happen in a week.
Right.
Jang's very much so a do the thing and you might see a benefit from it a year
It's
from now.
it's very wax on, wax off actually.
It's
if
like
we wanna.
the like
Yeah.
I'm doing our emotions and you can't see it, but it's the like learn the thing.
And like it's very definitely you understand that he's just trying to teach her as best as he can while knowing that she is an impatient fuck.
And sometimes
Well,
sometimes the lessons are just, can you be patient for 5 seconds?
Well, and it's
Literally
also worth noting.
when they get to the meditation, he's just
oh
like,
god, the meditation.
just sit fucking still.
She's like, I can't. He's like, I don't care.
Well, and it's also worth noting he probably at that point had already figured out what she was. Right?
I think he had an idea from the beginning, which is why he agreed to teach her anything.
Mhm.
Exactly. So he's probably teaching her skills that will benefit her in the long term rather than skills that will benefit her in the short term.
Yeah. One thing I will say that is not necessarily like a choice that I disagree with in the book, but a choice that I just find like very repetitive is the very typical like you don't belong here dynamic that you just see so often in these kinds of settings. I don't consider that to be like a bad thing per se because that just makes sense for the story. Like it's a very reasonable like it makes sense that she wouldn't feel like she belongs. It makes sense that like children of a higher standing whose parents taught them to be shitty about it are shitty about it. Like that makes total sense. But I was just very unsurprised by the like, of course she's getting bullied and like having trouble with classmates in her school. Because that's usually how this goes in these types of stories.
I will
Can we
100%
talk
agree
about,
with
like-
that. And I will draw a comparison to, so as a Canadian, drawing a comparison to the difference of children of nobility in the Commonwealth countries. Because the children of nobility are educated very, 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 very differently than the children of normal people.
Right.
And that's something that like if a normal person won a scholarship to go to a school that's primarily attended by persons of a certain birth rank or whatever else, absolutely 100%, regardless of the fact there's uniforms, there's XYZ, there's still going to be bullying.
Oh yeah,
Right.
that happens all
doesn't
the
make it
time here in the
okay.
States too.
It just is what
Like
it is.
you see that especially with, unfortunately, our classes aren't really social; they're wealth, and so if someone from, say, a low or a middle class background wins a scholarship to an institution that's primarily attended by like the top 1% children of the country, oh god, wait for shit to get fucking hit in the fan.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's kind of why, like, technically my comment here belongs under, like, quote-unquote criticisms, but it's not me being like, oh, she shouldn't have done this was a bad choice. It was just kind of like a very predictable moment.
Yeah, it was 100% predictable, but it also made it real.
Oh no, I think
Ooh.
it's very much a strange thing where it's like, I'm not necessarily knocking the decision, it's just something I feel like we see all the time.
Yep.
Like,
And
even
we do.
like, even if you take something like a Harry Potter where he like gets some friends and is like fine after that, basically, there's a lot of that, like, oh, he doesn't belong when he gets there, or like, what's another good example? I'm gonna forget everything I've ever read now in order to do this. Oh, like, there's a point in like Aragon where he like goes into a new city and everyone looks at him like he's got 3 heads, and it's like, it's very common, but it is just kind of like a reality of doing a story like this. I think it's sort of unavoidable in a way.
But it's also identifiable.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
no.
unavoidable, but it makes especially younger readers feel like they're able to identify with your protagonist, right?
I think it's a double-edged sword for sure
Yeah, absolutely.
in that way.
But speaking of privileged kids, can we please talk about Kate?
Okay, I was like, if you're about to talk
Oh.
shit on Kite, I will be a little upset because I do like this
No.
child.
Why
I
in the
love
world would I
Kite.
talk shit about the bean?
The bean is the best bean.
Okay, so
For
Can we
context,
just
this
love
is
on him?
Rin's Rin's
Kate
only
is
friend. And I'm not
yeah,
exaggerating.
the only person who is willing to talk to her after Nezha basically makes her persona non grata at Singard after the first day.
Is
Oh, yeah.
Kite, because Kite doesn't give a
Is
fuck about
Kite.
Neza.
And I
Oh,
can just
God.
imagine him with the sassiest, like, I got you, boo. Like, everything's fine. We got you. Everything's good. Like, just the sassiest man.
So his father is essentially the defense minister of
For the nation.
Nakara. And he's also the Rat Province's warlord.
Something.
Yes?
I think so. I think that's correct. That sounds right.
I'm gonna be real, I didn't like his dad that much, so I didn't pay as much attention.
Well, his dad is a douche.
Well,
He's
thankfully-
fantastic.
His
thankfully, we
dad's in
didn't
like
have too
5
much
minutes of the
interaction
book.
with
It's
Dad.
okay.
Thankfully. So
We all must love Kite.
yes.
Love
so
him.
he is a very nerdy bean.
He's a-
And he can hold his own in a fight as long as he can make his opponent exhausted.
Yep.
Because he's very quick and he's very agile.
Well, isn't the whole thing that he's got like
Uh,
basically photographic memory, or like there's
Yes.
a different
Eidetic
word.
memory.
I thank you.
Yeah.
I knew there was
You're
another
welcome.
word. Where basically, if he learns something, it just kind of hangs out in
So,
his brain. He doesn't
way
have to
eidetic-
study the way like a conventional human would, quote
Yeah,
unquote.
so the way eidetic memory works is if you read something or you see something, specifically in text, but sometimes it works other ways, you will remember it forever. It will never leave your brain. It will always be there.
Which is a blessing and a curse, by the way.
So,
but...
like, Sheldon. Like,
Yeah.
to take it to popular culture, Sheldon has an eidetic memory.
Yeah.
So if you've watched that particular show, that's a lot of people who are well known for being very intelligent also have eidetic memories.
Yep.
Yep.
Because they are able to remember everything they have ever read, and so they tend to spend a lot of time reading things related to their field. But for Kate, that means that he's spending a lot of time reading things related to murdering people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we're at.
I am also the least worried about handing him a weapon out of all of the other children in Singard.
It'd be like, oh yes, I have read how to use sword. I will use sword. I will slash and I will stab.
Right, but like probably only if the moment calls for it.
Exactly. I would expect him more likely to be like LeafSpring and just throw books at people.
We hurl books and insults before we throw weapons.
Exactly.
Oh god. But no, so they do become friends despite her being a bit ostracized. Jiang is teaching her like combat, but so Jiang's whole thing is
combat.
What they teach in combat class is kind of a watered down version of what he is teaching her, since he can actually sit and go through everything one-on-one with her. So you go through all of this. It is about a year, a little under, I guess, of her doing all of this, and the tests are coming. And of course she's taking all these classes, blah blah blah.
Oh my goodness,
the pressure
guys.
is on.
Give me 1
for
second,
all
sorry,
the
chat.
Yep. But yeah, no, the pressure is on just because like if you don't pass, you're done. And particularly for Rin, if she is done, she becomes a bride to some creepy old dude.
And she doesn't want that, which completely understandable,
I was gonna
my girl.
say, do we blame her? Not at all.
Absolutely the fuck not.
So she actually starts leaning back into her old methods of studying, keeping herself awake, etc.
We forgot a thing.
Okay, we cannot go through every single detail. We will be here all night.
But it is important.
Okay, go.
So when like she first gets to Singard, within like the first month, Rin experiences her first period. And she does not have a regular period. She has like full on. She is incapacitated. She misses classes.
Also,
and
just to be clear, the reason that this is such a big deal is because no one in her village told her that that happened to people with uteruses. No one.
She was not told that this happens. So she literally woke up,
in
felt
a pool
something
of her
in
own
between
blood.
her legs. She felt something in between her legs. She stuck her hand down there. She brought her fingers up to her face and then saw that there was blood and freaked the fuck out.
She wakes up literally in a pool of her own blood and understandably about loses her goddamn mind. Because fair.
Definitely. So essentially what happens, she goes to the medical bay and they're just like, yeah, okay, well, I mean, this is how it happens. It's gonna happen for every month for the rest of your life until you hit about your mid-40s, and then have fun. Not much you can do. Here's a sock filled with some warm rice. You'll be fine.
And of course she's just like, excuse me?
Right. And so she's just like, what the fuck can I do with this? And then one of the medical students in her year decides to
it is her, isn't it? I thought it was someone older for some reason. Anyway, continue.
No. Decides to defy the ban real quick, and informs her that there is something that can basically make it stop.
I mean,
it is a medical concoction.
I mean, it makes her uterus inoperable, is what it does.
Yeah. And Rin literally does not think at all.
Her classmates are like, what if you want to have kids in the future? And she's like, no, bitch.
She's like, no, bitch, this is too important. I have to stay here. Give me the fucking medicine. And she bolts over to the medical ward. She gets the concoction from the physician who tells her what happens, what it does.
Which is kind of horrifying,
and
by the
when
way.
he gives it to her, Yeah, when he gives the medicine to her, she literally downs it like it's the shot of the most l- like the best liquor that she
Except it
ever
tastes horrible.
had. Yeah, it tastes horrible,
And then it
but she downs
incapacitates
it like
her
there's no tomorrow.
for a week. She is borderline
Mm-hmm.
delirious for the better part of a week.
However, as a woman who has had their reproductive bits removed, 100% would do it to not have my period. I still get my period, which is terrible. But if I had the option to do that, 100% would do it.
Yeah, they're inconvenient
I
at
just
best.
can't have the babies without doctor intervention. But like
But-
that was one step. I would 100% take the no periods. Please, okay, thanks.
Well,
But yeah,
and
that's also like going into her whole entire thing. She will mutilate herself in order to achieve her goals.
she is not
That's
would
going
above.
off
too.
of the theme.
She's not above a little self-harm.
No.
She's not above a lot of things.
I look.
Well, we're getting there. We're getting there.
So
Slowly but surely.
let's get to the tournament.
So, oh boy. So the tournament, everybody, so every
We-
single student
First
has
year.
to
First year.
Pause
participate
for
in a
1 second.
Yeah.
Have we got to the part where she talks about the things that she like the strategy thing?
We briefly talked about that when we were talking about her taking the Keju. Yeah.
Oh, no, I think she's talking about strategy class with
Yeah,
Urja.
so when she was in strategy class and she was like, so how would they were giving her a situation of like, you cannot get into this keep to rescue people. There are a whole bunch of civilians in there. You can't save anybody.
you're
like, you're
surrounded on
screwed.
two sides.
Yeah, like what would you
And,
do? And her response
yeah.
was flood it. Just flood
Mhm.
it. To hell with the civilian casualties. To hell with the damage to crop lands. To hell with the damage to rice paddies. To hell with everything. I don't care. Because we get rid of the invaders.
Well,
So the thing was,
her
is
whole
that
thing
she-
is sacrifice this small group for the ability to win the war at large.
Yes. But
right,
that's
and then when Urja
important.
talks to her afterwards, he makes her understand that yes, that would have worked in the short term, but what
But it
about
would've
long
ruined
term?
everything around it. Yeah.
Yeah, like the girl, I cannot remember her name, but she's the one who's like absolutely in love with Nezha and makes Ren's life a living hell
Just
inside of the
Because
women's
of course
quarters.
there has to be a queen bitch.
Of
Thing is,
course there
she's
has
not
to be a
even
queen
that
bitch, and she is
bitchy.
it.
She's not,
She-
but there still
well,
has to be a queen bitch.
Yeah,
She's not any meaner than Neza.
true. She is definitely not meaner than Nezha.
She mostly just
Um,
ignores the fact that Rin exists.
True. But basically she's the one who points out, but dams take like forever to rebuild. And Urja hammers in that point with Ren on their one-on-one and being like, yeah, short term, this would have worked. But long term, you would have devastated the country.
Right.
But short term it would have worked, which is the important part to Rin.
Well, the
but
whole
she also understands the importance. Long term, it also would have screwed it over.
Yes,
like,
Like
does
she
understand that.
understands both.
the whole point of the sequence realistically is this whole thing of like it's not that like the strategy talk isn't like helpful for you understanding things later, but ultimately it's like a glimpse into who she is at this moment of like
Which
and
is
she's-
ruthless.
she's extremely competitive. She will
Yes.
do what it takes to win, and sometimes that's to her detriment. Like
And she will almost always choose the short-term fix, even if it creates a long-term problem.
We should also keep in mind the strategy she suggested. Oh my goodness, too many S's. Of flooding things because that comes back later.
well, yeah, but that's not a choice that she makes.
But yeah, that's
No,
not. Yeah,
it is
that
not.
she didn't choose to do that.
But she was
Um,
proven right.
Kind of.
True, kind of. But she also plays the other side of the coin when that comes back up. because she understands the long-term implications from that from the strategy exercise.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
she absolutely sees it, and it's really interesting to see her growth.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting to see the like, but Rin said we should do this ages ago, and we did it, and
Sh-
stuff happened.
Well, she also
and
didn't suggest it as a genuine war strategy. She
did not.
suggested
Yeah,
it in a
she was-
class.
She understood that there was a difference between actual fighting strategy and then also suggesting something in an academic context.
Like, yeah,
That
like
is correct.
ultimately her thing was just a theory. It's a theory that
Mhm.
tells you about who she is, but
But it is
Yeah.
still important.
also
So back to the
tournament. Cause
Sorry.
So
no, this
every
was just
single
really
first
cool, and I'm
year-
excited to talk about it.
every single first year student has to go through the tournament, and the tournament is a physical fight inside of an arena. And basically the first one to get incapacitated loses.
It's effectively
Um,
bracket style tournament combat.
Yes. And these also coincide with their academic testing as well. And their academic testing is kind of like the orals for doctoral boards. Basically, people will, the people that are evaluating you will ask you questions, and you have to answer them to the best of your ability correctly. But we'll get to that later. So the tournament, everybody was betting on Nezha to
Which
win.
extremely fair.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
he was the leader.
he was brought up as the Dragon Warlord's son. He knew martial arts since he could fucking walk.
Yep.
And he had been receiving one-on-one instruction
From
with
Jin.
Jun.
Or Jun.
Yeah.
It's also worth
Um,
mentioning that at this junction, no one has seen Rin fight beyond the first week where she got kicked out of class.
Because she got
But-
kicked out of class and was getting taught by somebody else.
Yeah.
Right, but no
yeah,
one
she
knew
got
that.
kicked out of class because she kicked Nezha in the nuts.
It
Which,
was so
like,
it was
deserved,
great.
though.
He
It
so
was.
deserved that.
No, also, she didn't get kicked out of class for that. She got kicked out of class because they were sparring partners and they overdid it.
Yeah.
She
And
kicked
by
him in the
overdid
she kicked
it,
him
there was attempted murder.
she kicked him in the
And by
nuts
overdid
in a
it
private
was
class.
Nezha couldn't control himself.
Right, but I'm
and
saying
she
the,
got punished because of it.
the nut shot was in like a student led thing.
Yeah.
Before
Yeah,
that.
then before the nut, or after the nut shot, she got kicked out because she decked him and I think broke his nose, if I remember correctly.
Well, and then he retaliated.
No, that was the very
No,
was the very first interaction they had.
Okay, interaction 1. He insults the teacher, she punches him. Interaction 2,
Oh no, she gave him
he
a
gets
black eye the first
he gets
time.
too
Okay,
show
yep.
offy, she nut shots him. Interaction 3, she lands a square hit on him in class. He takes it personally and almost kills her and gets off easy with it.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to upset the Dragon Warlord's son.
Well, and especially
So-
because Jun has the belief that she shouldn't be there in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because
So
he's an entitled dick.
essentially,
Agreed.
since Nezha went all out in that last interaction, Jun kicks her out. So
Even though it wasn't
by
her
now,
fault.
yeah. So by now, she's been receiving lots of instruction from Jiang, and in her first match, she goes up against one of like her lesser classmates, and within the first like few seconds, she immediately sees the watered down version of instruction that Jun has been giving to this student, and she's like, I know how to beat. She's like, this is just kind of a pitiful form of this, which I know, which Jiang taught to me. And then she's like, the long-term shit's working. I'm seeing it in my brain.
Also, let's be real,
Um,
she's fucking feral.
Mm-hmm.
She is.
She's
And so then when she finally figures it out, she goes full ham on this guy, and he's down within like a minute.
And then she just does that to everyone until the finals.
Mm-hmm. So the best one is when she gets up to the privileged girl,
Oh god,
Um,
I wish we could. Did I write down her name? I feel bad
oh
not remembering
goodness,
who she is.
oh
Oh, I
goodness
don't think I
gracious.
did. Tragic. Fuck.
Hang on, I can
Hold
find
on,
it.
I got you, boo.
Okay.
Do your thing, Thomas. I will look.
In book nut
Um,
shots.
yeah,
Don likes the sound of this apparently.
I mean it's a great book. You should read it, my guy. So she gets into the fight with the girl, and Kate has told her that everybody has been afraid to hit this bitch throughout her whole entire life.
and and then Ren's like, "LOL, watch
Nobody,
me."
nobody has hit her ever, and Rin's just like, all right, fucking bet.
Yeah, Ren's like, "Watch me,
So
bitch."
they get into the ring. She dodges the first couple of shots, and then Rin fucking bitch slaps her.
And it like breaks her nose, I think.
And like I think she like breaks the skin on her cheek or something. Like something happens and she's bleeding a little bit, and she looks at Rin with absolute murder in her eyes. Like,
Yeah.
how the fuck dare you?
And then Ren still wins because, pro time
Oh yeah,
armor.
because the girl goes haywire afterwards. Like she loses all control, and then Rin's just like, okay, boop, you're down.
Well, and part of her whole thing is the longer that she fought, like people in general, but like how it gets highlighted with her of like the longer you fight someone, the more tired they get and the more like readable they
Mhm.
become, basically. But
Which
that's
is
like
also where
what the
the
semifinals
pig comes in handy.
And that's like what the
Yeah,
semifinals.
so she fights her in the semifinals, and then it was also I think Nezha and Kate in the semifinals. And
Kite just
so
surrendered.
essentially, you're right. After dodging him for about a minute, Kate surrenders. And that's not something you really want to do in front of the masters.
It does pan out for him, though.
It does pan out for him though. So that's essentially what happens with Kate and Nezha. And then Rin and Nezha are in the final fight.
And who boy.
And what a fight it is.
It's really brutal. Like, we don't really have time to go play by play, but like they are both just feral children in this arena.
And they go on for minutes. Like most of these matches are decided within like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. They're going on 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then finally Nezha basically gets her to the point where she will literally do anything to beat him. And then she starts to feel like she's on fire.
Venka. Well, so the whole thing is the longer she goes, because she like hates this boy, the angrier she gets. And that's when the fire starts. Yes, there's a kitty.
Smell.
She's not supposed to be up there, but there you go. Good girl.
My kitty has come in and gone out, and come in and gone out, and come in and gone out.
Yeah, she was kind of out.
Or what to do.
But an Axon Thor just walked in, so now she's back in.
But yeah, so essentially when she's fighting Nezha, the two of them are literally going blow for blow at this point. Like he's had her in a choke point one time, she's had him restrained at another.
Well, and it starts to get.
Interject briefly.
Go.
Before his fight, it's also worth noting that Nezha actually like slapped her, and she lost her shit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm at that point in the book and like scrolling through it.
I thought that was in the fight.
No,
he slapped her.
Yeah, in Nezha's fight with her, he slapped her.
Yeah.
And she lost her goddamn mind.
Well, what I was gonna say is it starts to get scary for him because she gets angry enough, basically, to where she stops feeling the fact that he's hitting her.
Right, and she is just going extremo haymaker on him. Like, she doesn't care where the blows go. She doesn't care what's happening. All she cares about is making him hurt and getting him down.
Right, so he
And
does, but then the
right,
burning won't stop.
but the thing is that she had to be drug off of him. They literally had to drag her away from him after he's already on the floor. And once she finally realizes that he's on the floor and that she's won, she still can't make the burning go away. And at this point, she's getting crowded by the master. She's getting crowded by her classmates. And she is effectively starting to go a little crazy. And she basically yells at everyone to let her pass. They surprisingly make a hole, and she beelines for Jiang.
Who is able to put out the fire.
Yes.
And then she's unconscious for like fucking 3 days or something.
Somewhere around there.
It's a hot minute. But the whole point is,
yeah,
she kind of unlocked. She accidentally like tapped into stuff that Jiang wasn't really trying to get her to do. So at this point, it's kind of like, okay, I need to help you with this, or else you are unironically going to go insane. So go ahead when it's time to pledge for courses, pledge for mine, and I will teach you what this is. And of course, she can't help herself, right? So she does that.
Well,
So
she
gets a bid for lore.
Yeah.
Initially turns him down because she
that was
wants
before the tournament.
strategy with Urja, like he does.
Right, but that was before the tournament.
Before the tournament.
She changes her mind after the tournament. She wants to know what happened.
Right. And Jiang had like actually begged her to take lore before the tournament, and she turned him down, and then he turned into a whole entire skulky baby.
Look, no one said his head was screwed on totally right.
Oh, hang on. You two are gonna have to continue for a little bit without me.
That's fine, I can do that. So basically, we move on. She does end up pledging to lore. Thank you for the posture check. She does end up pledging to lore. And we kind of move into... Time becomes a little bit nebulous, because we're just talking about, like, different training that he has her do. So it's like, the stuff with the pig we mentioned before, the meditation stuff that we mentioned before, further combat training, learning about like the different deities and like how religion functions in different countries and stuff like that. And it's all very like unorthodox teaching in ways that like is confusing to her and then makes it difficult for her to explain what she's learning about to like other students. Because like Kite asks her, like, what do you even do in his classes? Like, what do you learn about? And she's like, I don't know how to explain this to you. I don't, you know, like...
I learned stuff.
Yeah, that's really like what it is like, there's a rumor about what she learns that floats around the school, and she's just content to let that continue. She's like, you know what, that is easier than me trying to tell y'all that I'm learning about shamanism.
Because shamanism isn't a thing in this culture at this time.
They don't particularly jive with that belief, and it would be rough.
Yeah. It would get you murderated.
Yup. But she does get to a point where she's able to meditate, and some of the teachings are really starting to take hold. So Jiang basically sends her to like the top of the mountain that the school is kind of built into, more or less, and sends her to just like meditate until she's able to like connect to the Pantheon. And it takes her like a few days.
I think it was like 5.
That feels right, like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So she's able to do that, and of course, it just like alters her entire perception of like reality, right?
Okay.
Hello.
Well, she ends up meeting the.
We're talking about
she
Ren connecting to the Pantheon for the first time.
Yeah, so she tries to go to the Pantheon, and then she gets interrupted by the woman.
Yes.
Who is trying to caution her.
Yeah, warn her, be like, please do not do the thing.
Who we can tell is clearly Spearly.
Yes.
Do we get introduced to that this early, or is that a bit later?
Yeah, we get introduced to the, like, it's one of the very first things that she notices about the woman.
Yeah, the very first thing she notices is that it's a spiritly woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
she
just couldn't
notices that
remember.
it's not like a typical Nakara woman. She notices, like, she has the not almond-shaped eyes. She has the darker skin.
Yeah.
Like, she notices that this is a Spearly.
Yeah.
Also, you
Okay.
got a
So-
posture check, madam.
I did it already.
Oh, I
If
didn't know.
our chat members are having a hard time with geography, imagine where Rin lives as China, where the
Yeah.
Spearly are as the Philippines, and where
Mm,
the bad people
more
are
like
as
Taiwan.
Japan. Well, fair, but I'm going with like grand scheme here.
Yeah,
Stuff that
fair enough.
people outside of like that particular
And
area would recognize.
a nation that we haven't mentioned yet is Hesperia. And they're
Are they
actually
useful enough to
kind of
mention?
well, okay, so they're useful in background information. Essentially, what you need to know is that when the Federation nuked Spear, Hesperia came in and went bad, stop it, and forced the Federation forces out of
Hi, baby
Nakara.
girl.
And that's how the second Poppy War
Hello,
ended,
kitties.
basically.
Yeah, that's how the
Hi,
second Poppy
puppers.
War ended. And essentially Hesperia is America or Europe, essentially.
So
Gotcha.
if it helps you for geography, line it up like that. It'll make sense in your head because it made sense to me that way. So, and I am terrible at geography, so at least I could place things where I was like, okay, so Spearly's like the Philippines,
Yeah.
and
And like the hinterlands is Mongolia.
yeah, and then the normal part that Rin is talking about is China, and the people that are invading are Japan, and we'll just call it that. Even though that's probably not accurate, but it helps for geography to place everything.
Okay. Pantheon connection. She goes
Sorry.
up. She meets the lady who is kind of like cautioning her, being like, obviously the gods are like spooky and like don't give a fuck about you, which like she's not wrong. So she has this whole like quite literally out of body experience, and she does end up coming back down, and Jiang is already there like waiting for her, which is always like a little spooky. He's a little bit of a spooky man.
He is a spooky man.
But she comes back down, and it's really interesting because like the way that she looks at the universe is like genuinely altered, which is really like fascinating. She gets this like enlightenment type of moment.
Keep in mind, like, she sees him, and the first thing that happens is that she gets the smile of a mad woman on her face. Because she's
Yeah.
like, I understand now.
Well, it's truly. She doesn't say it like that.
I know, but still, it's clear that way.
But her whole thing is like she finally gets a lot of the stuff that Jiang's been telling her for like
It's like the
a
reinforcement,
year
right?
and a half at this point to like 2 years.
Well, yeah, because when you go through school, sometimes stuff doesn't make sense until you can apply it, right? And suddenly
Exactly.
it's able to be applied. And so she's like, I understand what you've been saying to me for the last year and a half. I get it.
And this is kind of like the beginning of where you really start to see like some of her kind of moral grayness, and where I do get a tiny bit frustrated with her. She immediately starts talking about using this for like the Empire and for like battle stratagem, and Jiang is just like, I just taught you that the way you viewed the world is wrong, and this is what you go, this is what you're, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yep,
And,
she
like-
immediately wants to use this for battle purposes because she's being brought up in Singard to get ready for the next war.
Right, and
And
it's
Jiang's just like, you motherfuck, I'm teaching you culture.
well, and it's the whole thing, right, of like, I don't necessarily not sympathize with why she thinks that way, but like, she's such a
I
good
literally
example of a
just opened the
character.
door.
She's such a
What
good
are you doing?
example of a character that is simultaneously so smart and so fucking stupid at the same time.
Like
Because
all
it's like, yeah, no, trust me, I have bullet point. We're gonna have to have a whole discussion about that job.
Oh goodness.
But this is kind of the beginning of kind of
Here,
my
kitty.
my quote unquote
are you
grievance with
doing?
her of like, you have learned so much and you have grown so much, but at the same time you go back to your base instincts every time you get the chance. And it's like,
Which
girl.
I think is actually really cool of the author to keep doing that.
But like, at what
Because
point is Rin gonna learn that that's not always the best way to do things at the same time?
I mean, that's fair. But also it's kind of going into the whole thought process of, can we always rise above our baser instincts, even if they
Yeah.
are for worse?
Well, and there's always something to be said of like what one person thinks is the right thing, quote unquote, and what someone else thinks is the right thing is like not always going to be the same. Like, she's morally gray for a reason. Like, this is not a thing where like I understand why she is this way, and like she explains her choices pretty well. But there's a few points in the book, and this is probably the first major one where I was just like, you just had a whole fucking universe unlocked for you. You wanna think about what that actually means instead of immediately thinking about war tactics for like 5 minutes. Girl,
I mean,
what are you
Rin is
doing?
nothing but a one-track mind sometimes.
Right, but like that's frustrating.
Mood.
Like, that is frustrating because she is so intelligent and because she has the capacity to do and understand so much, and Jiang knows that and tries to feed it into her, and she just is not having it. And it frustrates me. I think it's a great choice for what Kuang wanted to do with her character. I still want to strangle her like 4 different times.
Well,
Don't blame you.
My thing is that kind of how much of that was actually influenced by the fangs.
I mean, sure, and I mean, really, oof. Okay, all right. I'm gonna jump around a little bit, but that's just because it's relevant to this discussion. Alton makes it worse, and you can't convince me otherwise.
Oh no, he definitely makes it worse. 100%.
So quick TLDR, Alton is known as the last Spearly, and he was in school when Rin got there and then graduated after her first year. He's basically he's been trained basically as like the quote unquote perfect warrior. His combat is incredible, he's incredibly smart, etc. But as you kind of get to know him more and more, meanwhile, Jiang, his teaching is more about like empty your mind, commune with the gods, like stuff like that. Alton is more like, no, we work with the gods. They come back with us, and you can hone your emotions and things like anger in order to use them. And it's like, this sounds like a terrible fucking idea.
Most of the things he says sounds like a terrible fucking idea.
Yeah,
correct.
So essentially, Jiang's just like, there's no way to control the gods, and Alton's just like, we make the gods work for us.
You're fine, sir.
Well, it's kind of this whole thing of like the things that she learns from Jiang versus Alton, and it's shocking to me how like different they are, and both like how heavily she ends up kind of valuing both of their opinions. Because she really doesn't necessarily like discredit the things that Jiang has taught her, but she's so ready to like subscribe to the way that Alton does things because it suits her worldview better, which is also frustrating.
Well, it doesn't help that she fancies him.
I know
does not
that.
help.
It does not help. But essentially, so we can like talk more about this. I'm gonna give like a quick synopsis of what happens between where we're at and where we left off.
Yes, please.
Essentially, she goes through another year of training with Jiang, learns how to meditate, goes through this whole entire thing. She is basically regarded as the school's crazy lady. And
I mean,
Nez
she's
has
just
basically
the weirdo
taken,
student, which is fair.
yeah, and Nez has taken Alton's place as the star student, even though he lost his tournament to Ren, which is something she brings up, by the way. Essentially, what happens is that during this year, right? Like at the end of this year, the Federation attacks. And the Empire goes to war. All of the students in Singard are are
Drafted,
conscripted
basically.
into the divisions. And there is a battle at the capital at Synagard.
Oof. Yeah.
And so what happens
Which is brutal.
that it is a brutal battle. And essentially what happens is the Federation sends 2 full legions of soldiers at Synagard, which is now being defended by basically kind of a skeleton army because they have evacuated the capital from Synagard to Golan Nis.
Yep.
In the south, as kind of like their wartime capital. It's more defendable, and it's easier to keep trade routes, yada yada. It is a brutal battle. It's also Rin's first taste of actual combat. And how she actually kills someone.
It's the
for the
first time
first
she
time.
kills someone, yeah. Worth mentioning, sorry, I'm gonna say this one thing and then you can.
No, you're fine.
She takes some of the poppy seeds from Jiang's garden, because he has not let her use them to ascend to the Pantheon, but he has told her that she can. So she takes them with the intention of potentially taking them in the battle if she needs them.
As a last resort measure.
Yep.
And so what happens is that they're in this battle and it is not going the Empire's way. The Empire's way. And she and Nezha are actually fighting side by side with each other. And they think that they finally see an ebb in the Federation soldiers. They think that they're finally turning the tide. And then this big ass motherfucker from the Federation comes through, and it is this big beefy general. And he's just like, which one of you am I going to kill next? He runs Nezha through twice.
With his sword?
He basically almost kills Rin. And as he's about to basically snap Rin's neck, Jiang comes out of nowhere and he unleashes a whole entire horde of spirits and beasts and monsters against the Federation soldiers that basically takes the entire eastern city wall of Synagard down.
Which, just to be clear, did y'all also pick up on the fact that this meant that he was the gatekeeper?
Yes, I did.
I did not.
Well,
I did.
No, that's fine.
I had inclinations because what we didn't talk about earlier was that the gatekeeper was said to actually have these abilities.
Yeah.
In the description of the trifecta, and so I had an inkling that this was Jiang as the gatekeeper, but I didn't get it confirmed until we were in the mountain.
Well, see, that's the thing. We get official confirmation.
Yeah.
It's you get this moment here where he unleashes the beasts. There's one other spot where they more or less say it, but you only catch that if you caught the first one. And then if you bypass those, then when we get to the mountain later, that's the reveal because that's when Rin connects all the dots. I got it right here, which made the reveal later a little anticlimactic.
But it also kind of got the theory of just yes, I got this right.
No, yeah. And especially you needed that moment so that Rin could catch up even if you got it earlier, so.
So my problem with it was I had a rough idea that he was doing something.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure out what it was. I was like, well, he might be the gatekeeper. He might just be another Spearly. He might just be, a shaman. What is going on?
Well, see, the thing was is that
they keep it vague enough.
They do.
It was Spearly's only did fire. That was their whole entire shtick.
Yep.
So if Jiang was going to be a Spearly, he wouldn't have summoned monsters. He would have been spewing a whole entire fire NATO.
Yes,
which
but I also was like, what if he's a weird Spearly in my head?
Yeah, fair enough.
Which speaking of fire,
we're getting into that.
Speaking of fire,
so once the wall goes down in this battle, Rin peeks up and she realizes that not only is she alive, Neza's
Somehow.
still alive too.
Also somehow.
Also somehow. And she realizes that the entire Federation's force on that side of the wall is like absolutely obliterated, and they're also kicking ass on the other wall now.
Wait, no, this is when Neza gets stabbed.
Oh yeah, you're right.
He isn't stabbed until after Jang does his thing.
Yep, I forgot about that part.
He does
so,
the Pokemon, and then Neza gets stabbed.
So essentially, they see that the Federation's forces are like dead on this wall. They're getting kicked in the ass on the other wall, and so they're starting to celebrate. And then the general pulls
fucking
a
gets up.
freaking the Mongolian
general.
leader in Mulan and pops out of the ground like a daisy. And
Clearly, he can grow.
grabs Nezha, runs him through twice.
Yup.
Runs him through one time. Runs him through one time. He falls onto the ground, and then he runs him through a second time from on top of him.
Yup.
And then that's when Rin swallows the poppy seeds in order to get any type of power to call down, because she realizes that this is now do or die. And so right as the general is about to kill her again, she calls down the power of the Phoenix and burns this man alive.
Which, like, holy fucking shit, by the way.
Oh, holy fucking shit, by the way, but the best part of it is she doesn't seem to actually grasp what she's doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like she's like, hey, by the way, Phoenix God, please come help me. She's just like, what the fuck, what the fuck,
it's another,
oh god, I'm on fire.
It's another out-of-body experience for her.
Yep.
Because she doesn't understand that the Phoenix is actually, like, basically controlling her body at this moment. And so then she basically has to wrench control of it back from the Phoenix in order to shut the fire off.
She's to literally beg him to back off.
Yeah, and the Phoenix is just like, you weak fuck. I don't appreciate this.
The Phoenix is a wee bit bloodthirsty.
Yeah, just a tad. And so the Phoenix leaves, and she goes unconscious. She wakes up, and she's essentially in the basement of a house. And that's when they tell her that she's getting shipped off to the 13th Division, which is called the Psych.
Let's not skip the part where they figure out that she's somehow also a Spearly that they didn't know about.
Oh, well, yeah. Fair enough.
Look, that becomes a whole fucking identity crisis for her. We cannot skate over it.
Since she summoned fire, they said, oh, guess what? You're a Spearly now.
Which she actually was a Spearly.
Listen, to be fair, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. It's just like delayed gratification. It's like,
and they're just like, but your eyes aren't red. Just like, I don't know what to tell you, fam.
Right, but I like the reasoning for why they aren't.
Right.
Which we're not there yet.
Right, but when it happens, like, that's just hot damn, chef's kiss. That's foreshadowing. Fantastic.
Truly.
Such good foreshadowing. But let's pause for a moment to acknowledge the fact that this poor girl went from being a war orphan that was abused to fighting her way into an academy, to getting kicked out of her classes in her academy, to winning her tournament, to getting trained in lore, to finding out she's a Spearly.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And almost dying. Sorry, let's make that 7.
So
my partner just walked in and said, mic drop.
Good. This is at the point where she becomes part of the Psych, which is that military division I mentioned earlier in the stream.
Yeah, she's told that she can't serve in any of the regular 12 legions, because not only would it be disadvantageous to the rest of the warlords whose division that she's placed in, because like she'll get an automatic advantage to that legion because she is a Spearly, but also she wouldn't really like the other soldiers wouldn't really accept her as one of their own.
I mean, the implication is really made that if they put her in another division, they would fucking kill her.
Yeah, essentially. And Urge is just like, this is the only way that I could save you, just like it was the only way that I could save Alton.
And it's like, dun dun
and
dun
dun
and she's just like, defect.
It's like, speaking of, would you like to meet your new commander?
Exactly.
Who is, in fact, Alton,
Who
because
is,
the
in
last
fact,
commander
Alton?
died.
The last commander did die.
Do we want to talk about that real quick?
I do, because
or
the
do we wanna
last
leave
commander
that?
was murderated.
Well, the thing that I was gonna
Oh, poor
say
dear.
is, we can touch on that briefly. I think that that's a scene that is a bit weird. Not
I
because
like it.
so
I like
I
it.
do too.
hold
It
on.
was
Because
so
I think
good.
she places. I
Do
think
do a quick
placement is a
TLDR of the
little weird.
scene. Do a quick TLDR of the scene, and then I'll say why I think it's a bit odd.
TLDR, the previous commander of the Crike shows up on a boat and is murderated by their own empress because clearly we don't
Reasons.
care which way genocide goes.
And let us go on ahead and say that the boat is Federation in origin, and it is supposedly going to have like a delegation from the Emperor or
Also,
like a
she's
high-ranking admiral or some shit, and then you see the Empress come up, and you're just like, I'm sorry, what?
she's also the one that stationed Tyr on the boat in the first place.
Yep.
It's also a peak moment of like, I'm sorry, what?
And
Well,
this is when you
this
get
is
like the
my
first inkling
queen?
of, is the Empress selling out Nikara?
This was also a
And
nice.
What is she doing?
This was also a nice reminder of like, hey, just in case you missed it the first time, she's the Vipress.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which was
Yup.
nice for me because I'd kind of forgotten.
I
I
had not.
love the fact that like, oh, it was the way that they did it was just so good.
No, it's extremely
was
well done. You get a
beautiful.
you get
Yeah.
a really nice display of her power. My
Kitty, you cannot go outside. No.
the
You
the
do not get to go on
weirdness
the balcony.
the weirdness of it for me is not that I don't. Excuse me. I think it's a good
Sir.
scene, and I kind of like the dread of like us knowing what happened to Tyr versus everyone else who does not know.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's
Except the
strange.
Spearly and the Crike who feel it.
But even can we is it how the fuck do you say the name of that regiment? Help me out.
I thought it was the Psych.
That's what
Like
I thought too.
it should be
Psych
C.
makes more
Yeah,
sense
C
than
I
me.
C I K E.
K-E.
Yeah, psych. Don't mind me. Sorry.
No. I figured we should
Psych.
not say it 2 or 3 different ways because that would be confusing.
Psych.
The whole thing is they can feel when Tyr dies, but they have no
What are you
idea what
doing?
happens. Like they have no
I thought the
concept
only
of the
one
fact that
that
it
could-
was. Yeah,
I thought
it's
the only one who
mostly
could feel it was
Chang'an, I think. Is that one.
yeah, the seer guy and
Chang'an.
and Jiang actually.
Yeah,
I thought
no,
it was
no.
Altan, the seer guy, and Jing.
there's a moment.
Was Altan able to feel it?
So there's a
thought so.
moment where a bunch of shaman can feel it, but most of them don't know what it means because you flash to Rin real quick while she's like meditating, and she's like, "The fuck."
Yeah, because Rin also like
Sir.
sees it.
Hang on, guys.
But point being,
Yeah.
I think it's a great scene. It felt kind of dropped in and didn't make sense
Yeah, I
until
will,
so fucking late.
I will give you that. I will give you that. Like its placement is weird, but also I still appreciate it because it is one of those things where it's like Jiang. It's like Jiang's teachings, and that you don't fully understand it until you're near the end of the book, and then you're just like, oh.
I will say
My
it
cat
kind
likes
of
my balcony.
it kind
which
of
is a travesty.
has this moment of like when you reveal that the Empress is like a traitor, it's like, yes, we knew this.
Mm-hmm.
So like it does kind of dampen this like dramatic reveal that I think we're supposed to have later. I don't know.
That one was weird for me.
Yeah.
I think it's a great scene. I think it's just odd to. I think it's hard to put in a scene like that and it not be a little funky in some manner of
So,
speaking,
The
via
hard
either
part for me
placement
was, like,
or trying to not ruin later reveals.
yeah, like it's like okay, so she's supposed to be the bad guy, but we find that out like a third of the way through the book.
And then like
so we
75%
know
of
she's
the way,
bad guy.
everyone else is like, "Oh no, she's a bad guy," and we're like,
Yes.
"Yes."
We knew this. Like, come on, catch up. Like, we're there already, kids. Like, come on, let's go.
Yeah,
Also, let it be said, we're only halfway through the book at this point.
I know. I've been trying to hurry us through the synopsis. It has not
I'm
worked.
I know, I'm
sorry.
working on it.
I keep having to run off and catch the cat.
No, you're fine. It's just we keep being like, oh, we gotta stop for this detail, and it's like, I love that we're
Right.
in a group call full of detail-oriented people because same, but we do not have time for this.
I'm sorry, chat.
Listen,
I-
we
I-
can't give a 2-hour synopsis. It's fine.
No, I love the fact that it exists. I really do. That's not a bit, but also I'd like to get to the end of the book before the end of stream.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so,
essentially,
murder,
she's drafted into the
mayhem.
psych. She figures out that the psych calls down gods in order to actually fight battles. They're an elite assassination unit.
They're all shaman except
very
for
loyal.
Enki
Yep.
and Ramsha, I believe. Ramza.
Yes, I think you
It's
got that right. The
important
guy,
to note that
the
they
guy
also
who
call
does
down
the
different
stores
gods.
and the bomb maker.
Yes.
Yes.
They all
But
do
they
call
all
down
call
different
down
gods.
different gods.
Except
And that's
but we have-
incredibly important.
We also have the guy who keeps track of the drugs, and we also have a bomb maker who is a literal child.
Yeah, he's
But
like
anyways.
14 probably.
Except
then,
he blows stuff up and like mood.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, Enki is
So-
their medic slash drug dealer, kind of.
But like
Yeah, essentially.
socially acceptable drug dealer, so it's fine.
Yup.
So what happens is that they get sent to a port city called Coeur d'Alene.
I'm glad you wrote that
and
down, 'cause I did not.
I remember that one. It goes into this whole entire siege mentality of how a city operates under it. She learns that the Psych are basically treated as outcasts of the Imperial Army, but they're still there. They're still loyal to the Empress. She starts to get to know Altan a little bit more, and this is when she starts taking his instruction as her commander.
Yep.
And this
But
is
also
when
worth
she starts
noting
to
she,
realize.
She gets a little bit of a like girly hard on for him at that point.
Oh, that was already
she's
happening
had the
before
girly
now.
hard-on. She's had the girly hard-on when she first saw him fight. Let's be
Yup.
real.
But like
Yup.
it's important here. Thank you.
It becomes
It just
more.
gets a little bit stiffer. It's fine.
We'll say, God, stop. We'll say it becomes more relevant at this juncture versus like it being a
Thank
crush
you.
from afar in school. Now they're working
So like
together
from
all
like
of
a
the time.
crush to a like, but maybe it could happen.
Also,
Yeah.
let's be really clear. Rin thrives on praise from her superiors, and that now
Oh.
includes him.
So
Mhm,
it's
it
worth
does.
noting she has a little bit of a praise kink.
I was gonna say it if you didn't. Yep.
She does. She does. She most
She
certainly
100%
does.
has a praise kink. The whole time I was reading this, I was like,
Yep.
this reads almost like Lolita for me.
Oh,
Where it's
I don't
like-
think that's a comparison I want.
I don't think we need to go that route. Thank you.
No, but it did for me.
I'm okay with not thinking that, and let's continue on. So they get into Coeur d'Alene, and they get into this whole entire siege mentality. She meets the Psych, she meets a whole bunch of new people, and essentially the ones that you really need to know are there's the Seer, who's basically like this long lost prince from the hinterlands.
That is
His
Chang'an
sister,
is his name.
yeah, his sister is
Kara.
also
Quinn.
a shaman. She is his earthly tether.
Yep.
And her power is that she can communicate with birds and
Which is
basically
so
use birds for
Fucking
whatever she
neat,
wants
by
to
the
do.
way. She also kicks ass at archery.
You
which
meet the
is-
bomb maker.
That's Ramza.
And he is a literal child, but I love him.
I
He is
love
a goofy,
him.
Oh, he's so funny.
He's amazing.
He is
um,
Bean.
And essentially those are really the ones that you need to know about.
Yeah, just a quick
There
list of
are
the others
a
because I
couple
didn't.
others, but we need
The
to
bear
gloss over
guy
them
is
for right now.
important.
No, I was just
kinda.
gonna say
Suni.
Arashta is water, Baji is connected to the boar, Enki is their medic and or drug dealer, Suni is connected to the
Mhm.
monkey god, he's a real large boy, and then Unigen is like a shapeshifter-esque character, but tends to prefer like fox-esque shapes for like reconnaissance reasons.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was a quick rundown,
And then
but like
you have
trying to be a little
and then you have the
fast.
two Spearleys, Alton and who
Ren.
can do fire things.
Whoosh whoosh.
Whoosh whoosh.
Yes. So they're in Coeur d'Alene. She's getting used to the new unit. She's starting to form friends within the Psych. And then the what legion is the Dragon Province? The second,
I don't fucking
or
know,
is it the
my dude.
12th?
It's not
12th.
12. I don't think it's 12.
No, 7th.
7th. Thank you. The
You're
7th
welcome.
Legion comes in and augments the 5th Legion, who is headed up by Jun.
So we have
and
3 war leaders here. We have Jun, we
Yeah.
have the Ox and the Ram
Jun,
war
the
leaders as
Ram
well.
yeah.
Warlord, whatever.
Yeah, the Ram Warlord and the Ox Warlord. And so basically, Jun treats the Psyche like shit because he is a classist.
Yeah,
The I think the Ox
Most of them treat them
Warlord
like a
is
laughing
the
stock is the
Wishwash.
problem.
No,
So
the lamb, the lamb one is the Wishwash one.
the Ram
and the Ox one is just whatever.
will go either direction. The Ox is
Yeah.
willing to let them prove themselves, but he's also willing to let them fall on their own sword, so it's not really better.
Yeah,
So
he's
they're also
willing to
not
blame
sharing
everything.
provisions. So
Yup.
the
Yes.
Psyche is
Or
basically
intelligence.
cut off from provisions, which means food and water, as well as medical supplies and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they want them to go out and do the like super secret missions that they can't do, but they're also not willing to share.
And then
The
they
only thing
take
that they
credit
are willing
when the
to share
Psyche do
is food.
things.
Yeah, so Alton plans this crazy ass mission, and that they're going to disrupt a Imperial supply mission.
Which, to his credit, it
and
fucking works.
It does work.
It works like a fucking charm.
Outside
The only
of
thing that
Rin.
doesn't happen like a fucking charm is that Rin can't call the fire.
Well, because
Tries
she's
almost dies
so
because of it.
hard.
well.
And
The
she
thing
gets
is,
so far, and in the end, it
doesn't even
matter.
matter. Well, and the whole thing
It
to
doesn't
mention
even
here,
matter.
right, is that like she's never really done it on purpose before.
Yeah. And
When
so
she
now she's trying to do it on purpose, and she doesn't know how.
right, so when she did it in Singard, it was like very much a life or death esque scenario. So now she's grappling with how do I do this? She's grappling with do I even want to do this? She's grappling with what Jiang taught her versus what Alton is now teaching her. Like, now is when we get all of the internal, like, what the fuck am I doing here?
So basically, essentially, she's told she can't serve in any other legion. And Alton is now telling her if she can't call the fire, she is fucking useless to him. And
It's
she
literal words.
just needs to go.
It's also worth noting that this is a bit later in the siege when things have flipped and are going quite poorly for their unit and their side in general. And Alton is getting neurotic. He is angry.
So
he is feral. He is taking it out on
um,
everyone around him. And it's
yes,
not good.
and the reason that happens is because after they win that battle, the Federation comes in under false white flag. And they bring a quote-unquote gift of salt and sugar for the people of Coeur d'Alene. And essentially what happens is that they're talking and the Federation delegates are literally just trying to buy time. And what happens is that the bomb expert,
Ramza,
Ramza finds out that that's not salt, it's saltpeter,
aka
instead.
Boom.
Explosive.
Yeah, and so
Saltpeter is
essentially
very
what
explosive.
happened, and what they suggested was give out the supplies to the citizenry. Don't let the army hoard it.
So
give
they
it out
did.
to the men, women, the children,
Right,
the civilians.
But that means
And
it
I'm
all
just like,
blew in the
okay.
middle of the main square.
Yep.
And so literally, like, entire buildings are just gone. And they blame that on Alton. That's when he starts to get pissy and feral, and that's literally when he tells Rin, unless you can call the fire, literal words, you are fucking useless to me. And that is when she starts to be like, bro, what the fuck? I'm trying to do my best.
Well, and like
Federation
realistically,
guys came under a white flag of peace.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, right? Is like, sorry, I'm gonna rag on Alton for a minute.
Okay.
Alton's a fucking dickwad in this sequence.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Like,
true. However, he does have his reasons.
that doesn't make
But
it
he's
acceptable.
not
I don't- I
okay.
I didn't say that it made it okay. I just said that he had reasons.
Well,
He
and that's
can have all
kind
the
of.
reasons in the world. That doesn't make it okay.
But that's
I
the.
didn't say that.
But that's the confliction that Rin has, especially after she talks to like Chang'an about it. Is it's like he's under a lot of pressure. He's trying to keep his people alive. He is not used to being in a position of command, and it's like, okay, cool, but maybe don't emotionally abuse me. Like,
Right, she's
Okay,
just
cool,
like-
but maybe don't be an absolute catastrophic douche nozzle.
and
Like,
it's worth mentioning that this is not behavior he is reserved for her. We catch most of what he says to her because the story is from her perspective, but he's
Yes.
doing this to everyone.
that still doesn't make it okay.
it
I'm
does
not
not.
justifying, but I'm saying
Nope,
it's not
I
it's
know.
not centered on Rin. It is
But-
coming out at everyone.
For the benefit
Yeah.
of chat, it is not okay if anybody emotionally abuses you.
Well, no, of course not. General
No,
disclaimer:
absolutely not.
don't let people treat you like garbage.
Yes, and if they do, please come to one of us. We will beat them up for you.
It's true.
Now,
Will.
An interesting dynamic I do want to pause in here for just a minute is the reappearance of Neza.
I was getting there. I was about to have the second
Okay.
legion come in.
Okay, go.
So the Seventh Legion comes in and Nezha's with them. He's like at the front of the vanguard, and Rin's looking at him like, "The fuck! I thought you were paralyzed, bitch."
and
which-
he's like,
because
but no,
it-
in fact, I'm here to murder.
Actually, and so she and Nezha actually start to bond with each other now because Nezha's no longer actually acting like privileged TM,
Well, they
and she
they
is
get
like,
past a lot of their petty
Yeah.
shit, basically.
and she's just like, I am having a full-on identity crisis. So
Which,
What?
like, fair.
I think for
Yeah,
her,
honestly
it
fair.
means a lot to have someone that was at school, like, actually with her in that moment.
yeah,
Well, it's
Like,
important too because
the
it's a little bit of
familiarity.
a like affirmation, like, hey, we went
But-
to school for this, and we're here, and we're doing the thing, and that means I'm doing something right.
so I'm glad that we're talking about Nezha actually being a wonderful human being and not a douche nozzle this time.
Yes.
But also, can we talk about Alton
well, hold
with
on.
Nezha?
Let me.
We'll get there.
What I was gonna say is there's a bit where there's this question of like how on earth could he be healed so quickly, and one of my notes is like, I hope this doesn't somehow turn out to have Neza being the bad guy because I actually kind of like him now, and I'll be sad if that's the twist we get.
Oh, fucking mood.
Right, but so we get this kind of moment where it's like, this was under a praise that I'd actually written down, where it's kind of like people get to be people in this book. Like,
Mhm.
Alton gets to be a fucking dick. For good or bad reasons. We kind of take away this image of Alton being perfect. Same with Neza,
Right.
of we kind of take him down from this mantle of being school bully. And it's kind of
Mhm.
like, okay, you got the chip knocked off your shoulder, and you're actually, like, okay now. Like, you took the
Yeah,
stick out of your
Nezha-
ass.
Nezha finally realizes that the world
That's
does not
gross.
revolve around him.
Yeah,
Right.
It's
he has growth.
Beautiful.
Right, but, like, I loved that. I was like, no, give me more of this. Wait.
Well,
Oh gosh,
character
it
growth
was
is
fantastic.
important.
Right, but as someone who's written
just
several
remember-
characters, it can be hard to make the characters feel human and allow for human growth when they're not part of like the main core of characters. And I like that we got
Yeah.
that for
No,
Neza,
they did a
even
really
for a
good
little
job.
bit.
And just like as we see with Altan, just remember, other characters can have negative development as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Alton does not love that they're hanging out, which is super fun.
No,
and
he
Alton
does
can go
not.
fuck himself.
Because Alton's theory is that Nezha is in the 7th Legion. The 7th Legion reports directly to the Dragon Warlord. And so if she's hanging out with someone from the 7th, she's essentially, according to him, betraying her
Well,
unit.
Well, he thinks that Neza is going to take information she gives him and take it back to his dad, basically.
Which, like,
And-
fair.
Which is
Well,
not an
kinda.
entirely unreasonable line of thought, but we're also given no indication to think that could be happening. And also,
Exactly.
I I tend to side with Neza because he spends at least 3 different pages going, you should not like let Alton talk to you this way. This is literally abuse.
Right.
Like,
and
fair.
I love Nezha right here because he's just like, what in the fuck does your commander have you doing? Like, what?
Right,
Like,
it's
you
just...
literally can't talk to me because he's afraid I'm gonna share something?
When I like the moment where he catches the bruising on her shoulder and he goes, did he
Excuse
fucking
me?
do
What?
that to you?
Yeah.
And of course she like can't really like say anything, but he takes that as the correct answer. And he's just like, yo,
Right.
I don't know what the fuck he thinks commanding is, but like, no.
This ain't it, Chief. Also, can we talk about how also Alton didn't really seem to go after it purely from a commander standpoint?
No.
Like, he was actually being very possessive of
Sounded
Rin
like
as
a
well.
jealous boyfriend.
It
Oh, it's
did.
very jealous boyfriend vibes.
And I was just like, bitch, you are not in a relationship.
Well, and
Stop
I don't even necessarily think it was an attraction thing on his part, to be totally honest with you.
It was a possessive thing.
It's a possessive thing, but I think it's possession bore out of I am no longer the last Spearly, and also you are one of my crew. I think it's more of a like familial adoption, jealousy, paranoia
no,
thing,
thank you.
and
No,
not a
go
romantic
outside.
connection, if that makes sense.
You still cannot go outside. It is
It's
not
interesting
tomorrow.
though, kind of how they explore Alton and Rin's connection at the end of the book, but we shall get there.
But I was just saying, like,
Sir?
I just wanted to take a moment to give him a little gold star, because...
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, trust me, I was getting to Nezha. I love Nezha right there. But
Really, you're not
speaking of
helping.
Nezha and Coeur d'Alene, so this siege keeps
Fuck.
going on for literal months. And essentially what happens is that there is now like the Empire has a last ditch effort to like push the Federation out. And they are actually working and actually winning this fight. However,
Slowly
it's
but
by the
surely.
Federation's design
Yeah,
in
it's
order
100% on
to
purpose.
let them think that they're winning this fight. And then essentially the Federation deploys mustard gas against the Empire.
Now, do we know,
Sir.
Mr. History Buff, sir, if it actually would have been mustard gas, or if it would have been basically
This
It
is
would have
World
been
War
mustard
II.
gas.
It's World War II, so mustard gas is very very on point for this. They said a yellow gas that causes people to scream, go blind, kill, so it's very feasibly mustard gas.
Okay, that's... I had a feeling,
It could
I just hadn't...
technically be another chemical agent,
Yeah.
but considering they specifically said a yellow gas, I'm going with mustard gas.
Yeah,
but
I
I
would
could be
also
wrong.
go with mustard gas, but can we also just pause for a second to recognize the fact that my cat just scared himself with my door stopper?
Love that.
Thank you.
I mostly just wanted
Baby
the history check, because I know they said like yellow and green and whatever, and
Yeah, no, like that
Mustard
is
gas
on
is-
point for mustard gas.
that's what
Yeah,
I thought.
it's-
I was just checking.
It's also accurate for the time period.
Right.
Yep, it
So
very
if we're
much so
talking
is.
about like World War II, we're talking about mustard gas because everything else, like
Mhm.
chlorine and everything else, was all basically outlawed in World War One. Mustard gas was the only thing that carried over till World War II.
Right.
So in this battle, they deploy the mustard gas, and Nezha's right next to the psych at this point. And this is after Ren and Nezha have this whole entire, like, they fight a mythical monster and have a come to Jesus meeting, and this is when Ren actually like starts to like Nezha a little bit, you know,
At
get a
least
little bit of a feel for the boy.
At least
Um,
consider them like friends at this juncture.
Right, and she kind of, at least from what I was taking from it, she was kind of considering him to be like just a little tad bit more.
There's a brief scene where she mentions how attractive he is,
Yeah.
but then she doesn't like readdress that at any point.
Right, and then she's just like, no, I shouldn't be looking at that. I should be looking like, you know, elsewhere. Like she recognizes that she had that thought, and then she's just like, no, I got to keep moving on.
To be fair, wartime be like that.
Yeah, wartime do be like that. And so Nezha gets caught in the mustard gas cloud. And she tries to go back to save him, and Alton yanks her back by her uniform and literally throws her over his shoulder and carries her back to the line.
Which, as you can
So
imagine,
the
goes oh
last
so well over with our
the
girl with anger
last
issues.
thing that she sees is she sees Neta being enveloped by this yellow cloud, and then Alton yanks her away. And she's like,
Which, like,
you
holy
literal
fuck.
bastard.
Yeah,
You
oh yeah.
stopped me from saving my only friend.
Well, and I guess the extra kind of twist to that is you find out that there was a mask that was
Yeah.
found, and they take a Federation prisoner, and she's like, there was a mask, and y'all took
Yeah,
the
so-
time to take one of the enemy, but not one to save one of ours.
So essentially, Alton went back into the cloud. I'm thinking that he probably used the fire to protect himself at this point.
They said that
Um,
he found a mask.
Okay.
That,
But
at least
Alton went
that's what
back
Alton
in-
said in front of everyone else. Because I imagine if he lit fire, it would have lit the gas, which would have been bad.
Mustard gas
possibly.
is not flammable.
I thought it was for some reason.
Nope.
Anyway.
No.
Not relevant. Continue.
But essentially what happens is, if I'm remembering correctly, he literally goes back in and yanks a mask off of a Federation soldier.
Yeah, I think
Right.
something
And
like
takes that for himself. And then they capture a Federation soldier and bring him back.
Yep.
And Rin's just like, excuse the fuck out of me. You couldn't go and save Nezha, but you can save this pitiful wretch?
that. Yeah, pretty
Well,
much.
this pitiful wretch, under torture, mind you, tells them that they have found the super uber secret mountain passage that lets them
Takes them to
have
the war
easy
capital,
access
basically.
to Golan Nis.
Which, friendly
Which
reminder,
nobody expects them.
is their wartime capital at the moment.
Yeah, and no one expects them to have knowledge of this mountain pass. Like, it is specifically Empire knowledge about this mountain pass. And they had no inclination of that, like, you know, the Federation would know about that. And as soon as they figure out that piece of information, they book it to Golan Nis.
Which, some credit to Chang'e for this, because he figured out that that was happening via a vision journey that he and Rin went on, and then it
Mhm.
got confirmed via the Federation soldier.
Yep.
There's a few times where, like,
So,
there's, like, spiritual knowledge via getting a little bit high together.
It's like
you know, like
a
you
love
do.
story to, you know, getting a little bit stoned. Fine.
Except for sometimes it's
So-
really stoned.
Okay, so we get to Golan Nis.
I love how Thomas is trying to keep us on track.
So let me set a scene.
Oof.
Let me set a scene.
Oh, boy.
They're going up the river, right? And, like, you know, river's quiet. Things are, like, relatively okay. They're like, oh, what's that in the
River.
water? Rin reaches down. They're sailing in a river of blood and bodies.
You know, some casual dead bodies for your Friday.
So
Just a little bit.
So they ditch the boats and run to the city proper. And just everyone's fucking dead. Like piles,
keep in mind,
piles
this
and
is, like-
piles of corpses that are desecrated, that are
Mhm.
positioned, that are half
So-
burned, that are half clothed.
So it's
Oof.
also worth noting this is like the second most populous city in the Empire.
Correct.
This is the place
And-
where they went to retreat when they thought
Mhm.
the capital would be invaded.
Right.
This
It's
is
the
a
it's their wartime
city.
capital.
It actually turned into the most populous place in the capital because it absorbed, like in the Empire, because not only was it the second most populous before the war,
But it
absorbed
absorbs
all of the
600.
capital refugees.
Yes.
Well, that's what I mean. Is
Um,
it became like the wartime capital? Like that's where the Empress
So-
was. All that jazz.
If anybody knows anything about Sino-Japanese war in World War II, Golan Nis is specifically modeled on the massacre of Nanjing.
I'm vaguely familiar.
Here, what are you
And
doing?
essentially, what the Federation does is what the Empire of Japan did.
Mm-hmm.
And
Which
the
is not okay.
soldiers. No.
That's putting it lightly.
The soldiers murdered every one of the soldiers, even if they surrendered.
There's a lot
Urja,
of murder. There's a lot of sexual assault. There's a lot of
Urja was
desecration
there.
of bodies. He gets
Yeah,
flayed
Urza was
alive
there.
on the city
He was
wall.
flayed alive. Yep, in front of all of the Empire's soldiers.
And who
So,
survives this?
I'm
But
gonna
Yep.
pause this for a second. So it's worth noting that before we go into any more detail, war crimes, sexual assaults,
yes.
physical violence,
None of this is okay.
Well,
none of this is okay, but trigger warnings.
we're just gonna give a quick.
Yes.
The book gets darker from here. If you need to peace,
yeah.
bye.
If you need to peace,
Yeah.
peace from here. Like this is the spot. This is
Okay.
when it gets dark.
Who survives?
I will be right back.
But motherfucking Kite.
Of course, Kite survives. Nobody can kill the sassy gay man.
Oh my god.
I read him as a sassy gay man every time.
He and a few of his cohorts were able to find this like pseudo underground like hidey hole area where they were able to kind of keep away.
So
from
they
what
were
was
also
going on.
buried under dead bodies.
Also that, which is so gross.
So gross.
So there's a few pockets of people that have lived, but like emphasis on a few.
It's 100% like
If the city
small
has
groups.
if the city has 100% people, maybe 1 to 2% made it out of this. The rest of them are
If
dead.
that. So
Which
as
is
we're going
just
through this,
breaking
we're
for everyone,
seeing-
of course.
yeah, oh yeah. But as we're going through this part in the story, we're seeing war crimes on a scale that you wouldn't see unless you watched a very literal documentary. Like we're talking about people tarred and feathered and flayed and raped and killed and insert other offenses here. So
Well,
we're
and
talking about
what's
everything
that
bad.
poor girl's name with the broken hands? Is
I
that
don't
Venka
remember,
or
I'm
is that the
sorry.
other girl?
Venka, I think, yeah.
They
I think it was Venka.
Well, there were two of them. I just don't remember if it was Venka or the other one.
I think it was Venka.
There's a whole series of events that you get from this poor girl where they had rounded up several of the women and were essentially having their way with them. And they had a pregnant woman who was kind of taking care of them, and then she ends up getting brutally fucking murdered. And it's a very...
Venka tells the story, but it
Oof.
wasn't Venka that was one that got murdered.
No, Venka's fine. Well,
Yeah.
Venka's alive.
Venka's alive.
But
She's not fine, but she's alive.
what's important for Rin, mostly, just to skate a little bit by how horrible that story is, because we do have TOS to worry about.
I am back and here to talk about a little massacre.
Hi, we're talking about all the women that got rounded up.
We're talking about Venka.
Yes, I did skate by some of the really detailed parts of that because Twitch
Thank
TOS might
you.
get a little upset.
We don't want to talk about the pregnant woman.
I briefly mentioned her and we moved the fuck on. Well, it's real dark, y'all. We're really not exaggerating.
And the thing is that I think I read all of the things that she puts into the Golden Niece scene are things that happened.
Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay,
And,
so interesting.
Minjiang.
Let's pause for a second here. That particular scene covers war crimes. 100% unequivocally war crimes. Whether that's in a fictional story or in real life, and the fact that it happened in real life makes it so much worse.
Yep.
So if you read this book, please be aware of the fact that as somebody who has a relatively strong stomach for written stuff, I had a hard time with this
Yeah.
part.
I was okay until the pregnant lady got killed.
I was okay until the pregnant lady, and then I was also not okay. I had to put the book down for a minute and walk away.
But
Keep
what
in mind,
is...
I studied the Holocaust for 2 years.
Yes, you did.
So World War II history is pretty good for me. I read that whole entire scene and I had to put the book down.
Yeah.
Because
So-
I literally could not keep reading, and I
See,
was like,
I kind of
I've
had
seen
the
and read some
kind of
dark
had-
shit, and that's just
opposite effect where I couldn't stop.
So my problem
I had to take a break.
my brother studies religious genocide. So I have heard a lot of really terrible things. We talk about a lot of really dark shit. I have a really twisted sense of humor because of that.
Same.
But this book in this part,
It'll hurt you.
I had to put down.
Mm-hmm.
I had to walk away. I had to take a minute and go back to it.
Yep.
So,
Same.
yeah, we're not saying this as like a cautionary don't read the book. It's a
Just be aware that this section's gonna hurt.
be aware. This section
Yeah.
is hard.
No
No matter how strong you are, it's hard.
Realistically, what is important to, we'll say Rin's character specifically, is Venka basically says, you have to get them back for this. I know what you can do. Swear to me that you will burn them all to the ground. And she agrees to do that.
And I don't blame her. I would
Mhm.
too.
Well, what I was gonna say is, it's not super clear in the scene whether or not she actually promises to do that, or whether or not she just says it to make Venka feel better.
I don't really care. It made me
It's
feel
kind
better.
of a little bit of both.
I was gonna say,
Either way,
but realistically,
like-
I think it probably dwells somewhere in the middle.
but it hit me in the feels. It's like Venka's like talking about all of the atrocities and everything that happened to the pregnant woman and
Yeah.
everything else. And Venka's like, you
Mhm.
need to get them for this. And Rin's like, I got you, boo.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm on board with this. Like, please fucking bury them.
Well, and so we get to this point where like we're having some hopelessness problems. And Alton has never been more wrecked than he is in this moment.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
he's useless.
Alton is just, and this is the first time in Golden Niece that Rin finally catches Alton getting high.
Yeah, so
yeah,
basically
so he's been smoking
without
opium
any-
this whole time.
Yeah, he's been smoking opium this whole time. And this is the first time that she actually catches him in the act
yeah,
without
so the whole thing
any type of abilities to call down the gods.
Yeah, so the whole thing, right, is people use these drugs to like help their ability to call the gods, but Alton doesn't need them, right? But he was kind of made to get addicted to opium in two scenarios. There's one when he did live on Spear, he was briefly captured by the Federation, and they experimented and did horrific shit, obviously. And then even when he got to the school in Nakara, they kind of continued to feed him opium. So by the time he leaves Singard, he's an opium addict.
And again, worth noting, the correlation between the Federation, which is Japan, and Rin's world, which is China.
So there's this whole thing where it's like, there's this moment where she's really upset to find that he smokes opium, right? Because she grew up around addiction, she knows what that shit looks like. But then Ramsa's kind of like, you do understand that we don't really have room to judge him, because none of us can understand what the fuck he's been through.
I thought that was Chagan.
No, so Ramsa initially comes to his defense, and then Chagan reaffirms that stance when she goes to talk to him about it later. Because Ramsa's the one she finds first. And I think that's an interesting stance, because I think they're both right. Like, I think
don't
that
think any of them are wrong with it.
I think
Like,
that
she
I
is
think
right,
that
too.
addiction is dangerous, and I think that he is endangering himself by doing that, and I think that she's very correct in that sense. But like, I can also sympathize with everything hurts all of the time, and I need a couple of hours to not be like attached to the planet Earth.
Yup.
Yup.
So it's like I think Ramsa and Chagan are right in that it's hard to judge him because he is just trying to fucking cope. But I think Rin is also correct in that, like, this is a terrible way to cope.
They are both
Like,
right.
everybody is right here. This is like, yes, you need to cope, but also this is a really bad way to do it. But also you need to cope.
But also, like, shamans are all gonna go be interred under the mountain at some point anyway, so I feel like there's kind of like a dose of apathy for what happens to them in a way.
Which isn't okay.
Yep.
It just in the sense of like, they're very used to like not being treated like normal people, because in some ways they're not. But then it turns
they
into
should be.
this. Right, but like them being locked away in the mountain is like objectively not a thing you do to normal people.
Yes, but again, they're not, as far as they're concerned, normal people.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. But like, it's you get like a kind of a drop of like something almost akin to apathy of like, at least from
Mhm.
Alton, who's kind of just like, I'm already fucked. Like I don't know how much worse I can get at this point, and it like there are definitely moments where you can tell he's kind of not worried about his own well-being.
So what
And
got
this
me
is
for
when
that was it doesn't remind me so much of apathy, but the idea of these people are lesser.
Mm-hmm.
Like, um, so harkening back to the World War II and stuff that we were talking about earlier, it was the idea that these people weren't worth caring about.
Sure.
These people weren't human; they were subhuman,
Mhm.
and that's how this entire book has treated the shaman.
Yeah.
And that's not okay.
But they start to
But
believe it too.
they do. And when you take a group of people and you tell them you're less than, you're subhuman for long enough, they do believe it. 100% they believe
That shit
it.
gets internalized.
Yep.
Absolutely.
I
And
mean,
you
it's
can see that
it's
the
the
longer
same
we go through
thing.
the book.
Like to a lesser scale, obviously, it's the same thing of like society today, or like certain sectors of like culture and media today being like, if you don't look this way, you are not attractive. And
Yep.
then it's kind of like someone who doesn't fit the traditional mold looking at themselves and being like, oh, okay, I'm ugly then.
Hi, I'm one of those.
Right, but like, just because society says so doesn't mean it's true, is the point.
No.
But like that's the parallel that I'm drawing here.
Yeah.
It's like on a lesser scale, it's a similar concept.
No, I 100% agree with you. As a person who looks at society and then looks at myself and goes, "Oh, I don't fit this mold." I feel subhuman sometimes. And that's not okay, and that's not right, and that's not the way that other people see me, and that's not the way that I should see myself, but it is the way it is for me.
Well, and
So,
so much
I
of that
can see
stuff gets
that.
embedded into you almost accidentally too.
Oh
It's
yeah.
like no one straight up walks up to Rin and like tells her that she's not a person. But like
It's
Well,
internalized.
not
But
not in literal words, Leaf. But like
aunt and uncle.
not in literal words.
not in literal words. What are you talking about?
Mm.
I
they-
connected with Rin so much at this point because it was the idea of I am not as good as everybody else. I am not enough. I am not able to.
Right, so then she's
do
ostracized from
things.
quote unquote normal people, and then she
Yeah.
doesn't even feel like she fits in among the people she's supposed to fit in with.
Mhm.
And I connected with her on a personal level at that point, and it was huge for me. It was like I was kind of ambivalent. Like, okay, the book has some good parts, some bad parts, some horror stories, and then when we got to all of this, I actually connected with Rin.
Yeah.
I was like, I get it now.
How lost
understand.
she is in this sequence, I think, is
Yeah.
very relatable, even if it's
Oh
like
yeah.
your personal scale of it is different. Whether it be like whether or not you're conventionally attractive, or whether or not you experience any level of like sexism or racism or whatever other isms people may encounter,
So many isms.
unfortunately.
I know.
During
It's
this sequence is when Alton gets the bright idea to release the demigods from the
from the
mountain.
mountain. And like
Because he's just like,
let's be real,
look at all.
this is a desperation play.
This is a Hail Mary.
Yeah. And
He's
like
just like, fuck it
well,
all. We're gonna make the Empire fucking pay for everything that they've done.
right.
And it is just now, it's now not about winning the war, it's about revenge to him.
And like let's be really
And-
clear, that's kind of always what it's been to him.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Like-
so this is also where Rin gets mad enough at Alton to confront him. And this
Which
is
is
also where
huge.
Alton basically dresses her down like she is a child. And this is finally when Rin gets the flame from the phoenix, she
Right.
finally understands that it is anger
I
that
will say
causes the flame to appear.
I both love and hate this moment because I love that she like stands up to him and I think that's deserved, but I hate that it gets
Mhm.
thrown back in her face immediately
Oh, but
Right.
that's
because
And then
Rin.
he's just like,
she
and
summons
then
the flame.
essentially,
She loses the standoff because he's more powerful
right.
than she is. But then he smiles and is like, "So that's what it takes to bring out the fire in you." And she's like, "You son of a
You
fuck
know
off."
Yeah,
exactly.
like
And she's just like, you are literally talking about waging war to basically just be like, you're talking about unleashing absolute hell on earth, and then you have the audacity to come and basically tell me, good girl? Really?
Yeah.
really, like that's what you want to tell me right now?
But like that's kind of the place he's in right now. Like he's not what I would call a stable person.
He's not what I would call a
No.
stable person or anybody to aspire to.
Well, and
Mm-mm.
you know that he's doing a Hail Mary play when even Chang'un, his trusted lieutenant who will go with him on pretty much anything, is like, "Bitch, no. What? No."
He's
Yeah,
just like, I'm sorry, what?
no.
Um,
Please no, I would very much like to open my door because it is very warm in my room right now, but
we'll
my
go first.
cat is laying just outside my room.
Hmm.
And if I open my door, my cat will go outside.
Yeah. Um,
You want to explore.
yeah.
He does.
But no, so Ren and Alton make for the mountain against literally every brain cell of better judgment, and Kara
Mhm.
and Chang'un get sent north
Because they
for
have to
To
go do
where we don't know.
mystery.
mystery. Yeah, Rin doesn't find out
Mystery
where they
things.
went until a bit later, which means we, by proxy, also have no idea at this point.
So
She
it's
doesn't
like
find
mystery
out until
science
like literally
theater.
the end of the book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you find out
mystery
when you
science
meet
theater.
up with them later.
You'll
All
find
right,
out.
let's go
Eventually.
to the secret tunnel.
The secret tunnel.
This is the mountain we touched on briefly early on in
Secret
stream because we were talking
tunnel.
about Jiang.
Secret,
Mhm.
secret
So-
tunnel.
Keep in mind, this mountain is put down to something that I literally cannot pronounce.
Yeah.
And it's actually the one question that Jiang asked Ren in her
First year
oral
test
examination. He asked her who was imprisoned in
the
this mountain.
and she didn't know really.
Yeah, and so she was just like, I think her answer was like,
Unusual
on, I'll
people
tell
who have
you.
committed
Yeah,
unusual crimes.
Nope, hold on.
crimes.
It's not. That's not it. Hang on.
Or is it like unnatural?
No, hold on. Hold that thought for 2 seconds while I scroll. Because I have the book open on my phone.
I'm gonna see if I can't try and find the
Unnatural.
Oh, goody.
Unnatural
okay.
people who commit unnatural crimes.
Okay, so Leaf had the right word. I was close.
Hey.
Unnatural criminals who have committed unnatural crimes.
Okay, I'm gonna
And
try and pronounce
It's
this.
the Bagra Desert.
No. No, he asked her about Kulu Korik.
Yep, that's the name of the mountain.
Hulu Korik, yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, what actually is in the mountain is shamans who have become so overwhelmed by the gods that they call upon that they have to be sealed away.
Mm-hmm. And so Alton knows where this is because he had to go with Tyr to imprison one of his former
Commanders.
Psych members.
not former commander. Former division member.
Yeah. Fade something. I forget his name.
Thalen?
That's it.
Galen.
Yeah. And so Alton's they get there, they unseal the thing, they step in and they immediately find out that what has been put forward is that this mountain is a place where magic is just null and void.
That's why
It is the
that's why
only
sealing them in the
place-
mountain works.
Yeah, it is the only place that you have no access to magic whatsoever. And so they find
Well, they find Jiang
first.
Yeah.
And because he's the most recent entry into the mountain. and they
was
unseal him.
so excited to see this man.
Oh yeah.
They unseal him. They find out that he's the gatekeeper. And Zhang's just like, "You're
What the
gonna do what now?"
Well, his first
Sorry,
sentence is,
what now?
"What are you doing here? What
Yeah,
in the
no,
shit
his
is
first
this?"
sentence was just like, "Why the fuck did you wake me up?"
Right, it's like,
Which just
y'all do understand I
love
like
that
put
man.
myself in here on purpose, right? Like,
Which,
I,
like,
Mhm.
mood. Like, why are you waking me up? I want to sleep. Go away.
same.
Fucking mood.
God, me all day today.
Yep.
Mood. But basically he learned they tell him what's going on, and Zhang's just like, "You absolute dumb fucks." And he looks at
Yep.
Rin and he's just like, "Do not go along with this at all.
I think my
Actually
Terrible
choose
idea,
my
kids.
choose my instruction for once in your life."
I think my favorite is at one point he looks at her and says something to the effect of like, "Didn't I teach you better than this?" And Rin's
Yep.
whole heart is just, oh God,
And
oh
she's
I
just like-
have. She's like, I have to choose. Fuck God,
and
shit,
then
damn
and then
it.
she hides behind Alton. She's just like, "It was the wish of my commander."
Well, I don't. The only thing that I'll say with that is that's the response she chooses word wise, but it's very
Mhm.
clear. It's very clear to the reader. She's like, Jiang abandoned
Oh,
me.
she
Alton
is
didn't. So
right.
like,
And she's
she
just like,
she quote unquote puts it on Alton, but she fully
Right.
chooses him. Like this is not a wishy-washy
Yeah.
moment for her.
I mean, she's initially wishy-washy in who she wants to support, but then
But this is the
Alton
moment where
says
that's no longer
something and it
true.
makes her, yeah, and then Alton says something that makes her realize he's been there. Zhang's just been here in this mountain.
But also, let's be really
Zhang
clear.
is just like saying,
Sometimes you didn't want Alton there. Have we forgotten that already?
"No, we haven't. We haven't." But again, this woman is basically essentially in Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, it's true.
Yep. Mood.
Let's just put it that way. She's essentially in Stockholm syndrome.
Y'all are worried about Beauty and the Beast. This is worse.
It
Yeah.
is so much worse.
This is much worse. And so basically, like, she is in love with Alton, and he is her commanding officer, which is another level of power. It's an abusive relationship, which is another level on top of that.
Well, and she
And then
even
Zhang
says,
abandoned her.
yeah. Well, and there is this moment where she does say like she loves him, but there isn't a super clear mention of whether that is non-platonic or just like
So
love is in idolizing.
See, I think
Can
that
I-
is non-platonic.
can I
Personally,
interject
from where?
Yeah,
for
of
like
course.
Yeah.
1 second? So Jang's exact words to her are, "It's easy to be brave, harder to know when not to fight. I've learned that lesson."
Which is correct.
Yep.
The moral of the book, the moral of the whole book is that Jiang is right.
Yeah, 100%. Like, Jang is right 100% of the time.
Anyway.
But that particular like sequence, like, I had goosebumps. Like,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful because it's like it's easy to know, it's easy to fight. It's harder to know when not to.
Yep.
Right? And he does such a good job.
Like, this whole entire time, you as the reader, you're just going, "Rin, don't be a stupid shit. Rin, don't be a stupid shit." And you see Rin walk up to the edge of not being a stupid shit.
And then
And
she
then
does
she
it
falls
anyway.
right back.
Yeah.
And then she falls right back.
Well,
And
and
it's just
this
a stupid shit.
this is kind of the
Ugh.
point that I was making earlier, where I'm like, this child, this young woman, goes through so much character growth, and sometimes
She
it
does.
just doesn't fucking
Mhm.
matter.
She
Yep.
works so hard, and in the
And
end,
then
it
it's
doesn't even
right
matter.
back to that base instinct.
And then this is kind of something I love and really fucking hate about this character, because I don't think that that's like an uncharacteristic thing for her to do, right? Like, she's traumatized, she's like trauma bonded to Alton, regardless of how you want to argue that is. Like, I understand why she does what she does, but it's like, after everything you've seen,
That's
why
what
are
you want to go with?
why are you
Yeah.
just doing the same thing you've always done and expecting it to suddenly work?
And
Mhm.
it's the hard part of trauma. You go with the thing you're used to.
Oh, for sure. Like I
Yup.
said, I understand it, but it is frustrating from an outside perspective.
It is.
Morally gray heroin.
It's
We love to see it.
okay. It
Morally
becomes
gray heroin is a nice change, though.
No,
But
yeah. I love that
we
she
should
is not
continue.
like I love that
We
she is
should.
not a flawless protagonist. That doesn't mean I don't want to strangle
Yeah.
her in this sequence and in the shit she's about to do in a little bit.
Oh god.
Yup.
Okay, so back to synopsis form.
Jane
Rin
goes back into
chooses
the rock.
Alton, and Jiang goes back to the rock. They release Kalen, Phelan, whatever the hell his name is.
I think it's
Phelan.
He
Phelan.
is associated with the wind god.
Yes.
Just one, but there are 4 of these fucks. And this goes about as well as you expect.
Yeah.
Which is
yeah.
poorly.
Wait.
Phelan.
Wait, I had
just-
a really funny note for this. Hold on.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Quote in italics. Oh wow, trying to take feral gods out of the mountain isn't a good plan. Who would have fucking known that would have happened? I literally have that in my notes.
So yeah, basically
Phelan
that's what it's supposed to
escapes.
expect. Phelan escapes, and he is now basically at large
Alton almost
as
dies.
literally his god.
We're not there yet.
And
No. When Phelan escapes, I mean.
No, we're
yeah.
still not there yet.
Yeah, Phelan almost throws him into a
Phelan
pit.
escaped.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, so he
Yeah.
almost falls to his
Phelan-
death, but that's
Phelan
not
almost
dead.
kills Alton
Thank you.
and scampers past Ren. He is now escaped and he is free.
Which
Except Rin rescues Alton, and then the Federation's
Yes.
outside.
yes.
Yes, so they escape out of the mountain because they're actually about to go scamper after Phelan to capture him again. And then they get ambushed by Federation soldiers. The only
Because-
people
Well,
who know
not yet.
that the only people alive who know about this mountain right now
Are
are
them?
3 people. No, 4 people. 4 people. Chagan, Rin, Alton, and the Empress.
Well, it's worth mentioning the psych know
Dun,
of the
dun,
mountain,
dun.
but I don't think any of the rest of
But-
the living psych have been there at this juncture.
Right, none of them knew the location. But the
No.
Federation were literally there waiting for them in an ambush.
Which implies the Empress betrayed them.
Yeah, and those 4 that I listed were the only ones who knew the location of the mountain at that point.
Right.
Because the Empress betrayed them.
And this is kind of when
Yes.
you connect this moment, and I guess it's technically like 2 or 3 scenes from now. This moment of realizing that she gave them up to this moment of her
Mhm.
killing Tyr on the boat.
So then the Federation takes them on a journey. They try to escape, but they're doused in water and
Drugs,
they are
basically.
drugged, and they wake up in the same research laboratory that we initially talked about Alton getting experimented in. This
So
is when you
Alton's-
learn about Alton's experimentation as a child.
Well,
Alton's
you
gone
know a
full
little
circle.
bit of it because Chongan mentions it to you at some point, but like
Yeah.
Alton went full circle.
you realize where you
Yeah.
are, and Alton's immediately in like PTSD land.
Yup. And then in walks the exact same doctor who is
Dr.
performing medical experiments on a 4-year-old.
Dr. Shiro.
Because
Yup.
he's a douche.
Dr. Shiro.
I
And
do
then
find
this
him
is when
fascinating though.
and I actually enjoy him as a character because
Yup.
he also takes down this Nakara idea that the Spearleys were just like, yeah, okay. When
He's-
in reality, the
He's
Red
so
Emperor,
cool and such a douchebag.
right? He just like he's like, I'm gonna tell you about your own history, and I'm gonna tell you about like how fucked you actually are, because Ren basically like spits at him and is like disgusted by the whole entire practice of using poppy to enslave the Nakara population.
Yeah.
And then he basically looked at her and went, "But you did it first."
It's like, where do you think we got the idea? Nakara did it to Spear.
Yeah, Nakara did it to Spear under the Red Emperor, and she's just like, "The fuck they did," and he was like, "The fuck they did."
Well, and what he
Let me tell you.
well, and the question he poses that ultimately makes her believe him is like, how else would like you've seen what you can do? How else would they have controlled an entire race of people that can do this?
Exactly.
Poorly is the answer to that question.
Drugging them.
Yup.
The answer is drugs.
And so essentially
Drugs.
he drugs Alton, and he's trying to figure out the secrets of shamanism. And
Yep.
he's just like, every single time I ask you a question and you don't answer it, I'm going to shoot up Alton some more.
And he does space it out. He's not trying to kill him. But
Casey says
Right.
hi, chat.
And
Sorry.
so essentially, like, this is what's going down. And there's one moment when they're in their cell, and Alton has regained consciousness, and he tells her that this is a moment that humanizes him for me. He tells her, I think, like, the exact quote's probably, the pain isn't from the injection or from the drug. The
It's
pain
from
is
the
when
calm
it wears
down.
off.
Yep.
And I'm just like, oh, you poor bean.
Well, in this whole sequence, I think humanizes him a lot because
Right.
It does.
here shortly, they both end up drugged and like basically ascending, and they take advantage of that so that Alton can show her spear history. And suddenly it's
Yeah.
like, oh, all of your rage makes sense because this all looks like it was a great like people in culture, and it got destroyed because people are dickweeds.
Oh yeah, because
Yep.
it looked like it made sense. Like their culture made sense. Their
Mhm.
culture had depth and growth and everything
Right.
else, and then it disappeared because Rin's own people, as far as she was concerned, destroyed
Nakara.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
and this is kind
And then
of
here
this.
comes along the car.
Kitty, you cannot go outside.
Well, you kind of have this moment of like you realize that Alton, the rage that Alton carries, is not just his own, the way Rin's is. He has also
Mhm.
shouldered the rage of an entire dead people. And that's like
Yes.
part of the reason that he's like a fucking neurotic piece of shit sometimes, which like obviously
One
does not
second,
like
guys.
justify him being a neurotic piece of shit, but it at least like humanizes him and makes you understand like why he is the way that he is, which I think we needed after a solid
Mhm.
third of the book of him being garbage.
Yeah, and so it was just it was one of those, like, you finally understand it and you're just like, oh, you are so flawed. And like
He's so
it's
fucked up.
not your fault. Like, this is what you were made to be.
Right, because then not
Um,
only were his people massacred, but then he got
Mhm.
treated like a weapon.
And he got
Yeah.
experimented on,
Uh-huh.
and he had to know that he got to experience Spearly culture, and then the whole entirety of his race was dead.
Yep.
And he
I
was
think
just
there's
like, I
definitely
could see Spear. I could literally see it in the horizon, and I saw it die.
yeah, like as much as I think it's really like sad that Rin was like taken from her culture and she didn't get to like experience being a Spearly, I think it also saved her so much trauma and grief.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would be
Could
a
you
lot.
imagine how terrible that would have been for her?
Well, that's what I mean.
Oh,
Is I
God.
think it would have made her a lot more like Alton. I don't know that she would have made it as far as she has. Like, I think she kind of wants it to an extent because like she feels like she's missing a part of herself in a way. But I think that's kind of one of the things that saves her from completely fucking losing it.
Yeah.
And she's not as bitter as Alton is.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely
So,
not.
trying to keep us on track. So, all the stuff in the lab happens. What happens
Yep,
next?
they escape, and they realize that they are like so close to Spear, and to basically
be
make
clear,
the Federation.
When they're in the High Vision in the Spear Village, they're told to go to the temple.
Yeah, they're told to go to the temple, and like Spear is basically like a day's swim away from where they are.
Which sounds
essentially.
fucking horrible, by the way.
Right.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to swim for a day. Do you want to swim for a day?
Right?
No.
But then Alton
and
does a thing.
yeah, so but then they realize that they're on a fully armored Federation base.
Yep.
and there are only the two of them against like a whole entire barracks of soldiers.
And they like don't even
And
have
Alton's
shoes, let
just
alone
like,
weapons.
right. And Alton's just like, you are the one who has to go. And
Peace out,
then
bitch.
like and then this is when I get to, it's not really it's not platonic for the two of them, because I think that when they touch their foreheads together, that's kind of like the Spearly custom
I mean, that's
of
conjecture.
right, it is conjecture. And I think that's like the Spearly custom of basically like, you know, a fervent kiss goodbye, because like she literally sees him coming towards her, like his face coming towards her face, and her first thought was, is he going to kiss me?
All right, but let's be clear. That's like a very normal reaction to have. If someone is like putting their face towards my face,
Fair.
that's a very
my
normal
reaction would be like,
reaction.
I'm sorry, what, are you planning on kissing me? Like 100%.
Right. So like not to discredit, I think it's totally reasonable to think that she has non-platonic feelings for him. I don't think that's a stretch at all. But also that's
Yeah.
just like a gut reflex reaction for sure. I will say, for all of her feelings, I think he sees her as maybe like a cousin or a little sister at best. And I think that's why he does the forehead thing, as a way of like, I am reveling in this last moment with you. We are the last of our people. Okay, you have to go.
I think we will agree to disagree on that one, Chief, but I think that both of our theories are valid at this point.
I think you could argue that he maybe has something, but I think he views her as too much of a child.
Because he just went back outside.
Perhaps. But essentially, after they do the forehead thing, he pulls a whole entire Human Torch.
Just yeets the entire facility, which good.
Yeah, he eats the entire base, and she loses her mind basically on the way to Spear.
Well, the
And
heat
she
wave
arrives
knocks her
on-
into the water, and then she
Yeah.
just hallucinates for a full
and then
like day and a half.
Yeah, she's basically completely out of it as she swims towards the island. Like she's keeping the star that he told her about in order to actually like navigate to it. But by the time that she washes up on shore, she's like absolutely delirious. She's weak from no food, no hunger. She has no shoes. Her clothes are tatters.
Well, and there's even this moment where like it's very clear that she has like spiritually left her body because Jiang has to like send her back.
Yeah.
Like she finds Jiang and approaches him, and
Which
he just
I
goes,
love.
and he
She's
just
having
goes,
a moment.
"Hey, bitch, wake up! You're drowning."
And then just like boops her forehead, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, I am."
Just thanks, bud. He's
so
probably he's one of my favorites. Anyway.
Oh, Jiang's probably my favorite character.
He's so good. He deserves
so they
better.
get to,
well, there's people outside. He's not allowed outside. Well, there's people not outside. Sorry, guys.
She gets to Spear, and she finds literally the bombed out husk of basically genocide.
Yeah.
She finds,
it's all aged,
she like
of course,
steps on something.
Well, she finds a
she
beach
steps
of
on something
skulls
and finds
and
that it was a human jawbone.
The whole beach is covered in bones, basically.
Just bones.
So she whole entire journey, she gets to the island, and she finds the temple, and the temple isn't what you would expect. It's actually underground. It's not above ground.
That moment where
so
she thinks the temple is destroyed,
to the temple. Right.
Oh, the moment
and then
where
she's
she
like,
thinks
"Oh,
it's
wait,
destroyed.
no."
Well,
there's underground.
There's this moment where she thinks the temple is destroyed, and she's truly just on the brink of being totally unhinged. Just like, oh fuck, god,
yeah,
shit.
And then, I think even the Phoenix was just like, "Oh no, honey, keep going."
But then she like hits her knees and like finds that it's underground, and it's just like the relief is very like palpable.
And so she gets down into the temple and she ascends to the Pantheon again. And she's stopped by the woman. And the woman we finally find out is the Spearly Queen.
Yep.
Who was going to call on the Phoenix to burn Nakara.
But refused to pay the price that he required.
But refused to pay the price, and so she turned the Phoenix's flame on herself instead.
And like she's been coming
this is
up
the
on and
queen
off.
that we would.
She's been coming up
Yeah.
on and off throughout the book because people like theorize about how she died and what happened to her. Like people kind of collectively
Yeah, like
agree that she probably like killed herself, but like the why and the how tends to be really like vague and like mythical in nature. And it becomes
the Spearly Queen.
it becomes kind of a thing
yeah.
of Rin and Alton both kind of take on this thing of like she couldn't protect her people but we're going to, which is like not the take that you realize when you find out what actually happened to her, that is like not the correct take.
Like
Mhm.
it
You're like,
based on the
oh,
information
she
they
protected her
have.
people at the expense of herself.
Yeah,
Right, and
but
like it
based on the
fucked them
information,
later, but
it
like
makes sense.
and like it fucked her people later, but like what was she supposed to do about that?
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
And so
she
the
tried.
Yeah. And so the queen appears the final time, and she's just like, don't you fucking do it. And Ren's literally storming past her,
Stop me, bitch.
screaming at her to get the fuck out of her way.
Yeah,
Like, bitch,
Um,
no.
she throws
Go
fire
ahead.
at her
And
basically,
she approaches the phoenix,
which
and the
he's
phoenix is just like,
so cool.
bitch, the fuck you want.
Well,
Yeah,
and
he's just like, what you want.
well, he
And she's
opens
just like,
he
you know.
opens it with, "I've been expecting you for a long time," which I think is a cool line.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so then he was just like, what do you want? She was like, you know what I want. He's like, but you have to say it,
He's
my
like,
dear.
no, you gotta spell it out for me, or else this doesn't work.
Right. And then she's just like, what was her exact wording?
Here, you keep going, and I'll see if I can find it real quick.
I got you, fam.
Hang on, I got you. I want an end to the Federation.
Yeah.
He asked her, how do you intend to achieve that? She answered, total victory. It's what you want, isn't it?
Mhm.
And
I
then
got
this is when the Phoenix was just like,
It's
what
not
I
about what I
want.
want. Yeah.
She's just like, the Phoenix is just like, I do whatever the hell I want because it pleases me.
I do
The
love.
fact that you are
also-
so petty.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite line from all of that was him going, like, I will call something terrible. I will wreak a disaster to destroy the island completely, as thoroughly as Spear was destroyed. By your choice, many will die. She goes, many more will live. And then she goes, they aren't people. They're animals. I want you to make them burn, every last one.
Yep. I will say, just
And then
to back up like 2 paces, I like this thing the Phoenix kind of says, where she's like, this is my destiny. I am the last Spearly. It's written. I have to do this. And the Phoenix is like, nothing is written. Destiny is not real. Like,
Yeah, like,
You
get
are-
over
yes,
yourself,
I
ma'am.
love that.
destiny is myth. The gods choose nothing. You chose. You chose to take the exam. You chose to come to Singard. You chose to pledge lore, to study the paths of the gods, to follow your commander's demands over your master's warnings. At every critical juncture, you were given an option and you were given a way out, and you picked precisely the roads that led you here. You are at this temple, kneeling before me, only because you wanted to be. So, like,
Yeah.
I love this idea where she's like, no, I have to do this. And he's like, dude, you don't have to do shit. Like,
Oh yeah, he gave her every out.
like, if you do this, it's because you're doing this. This is not a destiny. This is not a heritage thing. Like, this one's all you, my guy. Like, I'll do this if you want to do this. I'm here. I'm down.
Like,
But, like-
I'm down for this,
but-
but like, you chose
but-
it.
But like, don't pretend this is some destiny pre-written bullshit, because it's not.
And I love how the Phoenix tells her this.
He's still
And
a
then one
meanie,
one
but-
last time, Ren is given this option because she says, I can give you worship. I can give you an unending flow of blood. The Phoenix inclined its head. Its want was tangible, as great as her hatred. The Phoenix could not help what it craved. It was an agent of destruction, and it needed an avatar. Rin could give it one.
Yep.
Don't, cried the ghost of the Spearly Queen. Do it, Ren whispered. Once again, she was given the out. and
Oh,
she
yeah.
She's been given
still
so many
chose,
outs.
and she still chose the option that she did.
And like,
And to finally get to the option that she did, she chooses to have the Phoenix essentially nuke Mugen.
yeah, so there's
Which-
basically a dormant mountain volcano-esque thing over in their region. And
Which would be Mount Fuji,
Thank you.
for those of us
Yeah.
with geography.
It said for those of us who were bothering to connect it to the real world. I didn't do that till after I finished it. But he basically used that to just melt the entire fucking
Yeah.
continent.
He
drowned it
basically
in
had-
ash and like
Mhm.
hot like magma and just boop, bye.
He basically used the volcano that was dormant and basically created a super volcanic eruption.
Which, like, God,
And-
that's cool, but also, oh no.
Right. Like the immediate vicinity around this volcano was just covered in lava and magma.
Yep.
Then the ash and the toxic cloud fell down over the rest of the land, killing all of this Federation citizens. Nobody
It's
on
worth
that island
noting
was left alive.
that the synopsis of this, like the TLDR Cliff Notes version, is Rin uses the Phoenix to destroy Mugen. Yes, the entire island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are still Mugen people alive
Literally,
because
all,
there were
like,
people
the only Mugini people alive.
are the people that were already in Nakara when it happened.
Right, but those are now the only citizens of the Federation that are now alive.
Yep.
Is the are the people that weren't on the island.
Yep. So she
And
basically
when-
goes
when this
unconscious after
happens-
this.
Yeah, she passes the fuck out, and then she's found by the psych with Kate's help.
God bless
You have the
Kate. The
bean
true
back.
God bless
MVP.
today.
The true MVP.
And so then Ren figures out what went down. And this is when we get Chagan and his sister back. And we figure out what went down. Kara.
Kara, yeah.
Essentially what happens here is that Kara and Rin basically go into a pissing match over who did the worst thing.
Well, hold
Because
I want to
Alton-
go back to Kite for like 2 seconds.
yeah.
Because he gets a little mad.
Yeah.
There's this conversation where she's invited to go speak with the rest of the psych and like catch up with them because she's been out for like 4 days or something. And they can see where Mugen used to be. And Kite's like, we can't even sail too close or else the boat will catch on fire. It's fucking bad. And he kind of corners her in this moment, is like, your eyes are now red the way Alton was. So that means basically that the Spearly eyes turned red when they became like an avatar or a vessel for the Phoenix. Which is, I love that detail. So cool.
I do too.
Beautiful.
So cool.
So he's like, I know you can call fire. What the fuck did you do? And he
And then
kind
she-
of hangs her out to dry for doing it.
Right. Like when she finally like actually owns up to it and she's just like, I did what I had to, he's just like, what the fuck did you do?
Well, because she has this moment of like, he's like, you just did to them what they did to Spear. She's like, they were animals, they were whatever. And he's like, has it ever occurred to you that that's what they thought of us? And he kind of has this thing of like, stop pretending like you are better or what you did was justified, because it's not. And I love this from him
I love Kate.
because I
I
think
love
she
Kate.
needs to get smacked around a little bit in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's so convinced that she did the right thing. And like she ends up questioning it, especially after this conversation, but it's just kind of like, no bitch, you
Right.
committed genocide.
Yeah, and then now she's starting to think about the innocence cost of this,
Right.
and she's starting to process this, and then Kara and Chagan are there, and then she finally realizes what Alton sent them to go and do.
Right. This is a little bit later. She has
Mhm.
kind of gotten high and fallen asleep and has come down a little bit from her conversation with Kite, and then they come
Because it's
Chagan-
important
Yeah.
to note because now she needs the opium.
in. Right.
Yeah,
so
because now she is literally hearing
So once
the
you,
Phoenix.
yeah, once you
24/7.
become an avatar to the Phoenix, it never truly like leaves. So that's why her eyes like stay red like that, and she can feel the fire in her, like she's physically warm to the touch. And she can hear him in her head. So the whole thing is you suddenly get such a crystal clear perspective of like why Alton was addicted to opium is because that's the only time he got to be in his own head without friends.
Yup.
And by friends, we mean masters.
Yeah. But they
Yep.
come in,
And
you know,
so
they
then
briefly go over that Alton is dead, and Chagan has to leave because he's like that upset about it, which fair.
yeah, and then Kara and Rin are talking with each other, and Rin finally figures out what Alton sent the two of them to do.
Yep.
And Alton sent Kara and Chagan to go and do what Rin had suggested in that strategy class.
Which,
They
like, there's no
broke-
way he knew that. They weren't in that class
Right.
together.
Right, but the thing was is that Rin's just like, you fucking didn't. And they're like, we fucking did. We fucking won the war. We made sure that every single Mugini soldier who was on Nakara drowned. She was like,
Well,
you're gonna screw over the country for years. I'm like, we won.
what I think the implication is that there probably are some that, like, survived or weren't in the area, but, like, they
Right.
knocked out a lot of the main force, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the important part.
And then, like, Ren's just like, but what of all the innocents from there? And Kara literally claps back at her and like, what about all the innocents from that fucking volcano?
Right.
Like,
You know, the one you set off
like,
with the Phoenix.
you really want to compare here? You want to get into
Right.
a pissing contest of who did the worst thing?
And, like, I'll praise Kara here the same way I praised Kite. She kind of has this moment where, like, you have to tell yourself that you did the right thing if you want to keep living.
Yep.
And if you think
Mhm.
you're wrong, you have to lie.
Yep.
Because this will
Yep.
eat you up if you let it. And, like, not that she shouldn't feel a little bad about it, but, like, Kara's 100% right, too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then
Kara did such a
this-
good job with that too.
I really like
Yep.
Kara as a character.
So do I.
she's actually very good. Very good character.
She's arguably the most
Um,
level-headed of all the psych.
Which is saying something.
Yeah.
But they
So
have this.
then-
They have this kind of ceremonial funeral-esque thing for Alton.
And
And then
then-
revenge.
Yeah, and then this is when we realize, like, this is when all the characters now realize the Empress betrayed them.
Yeah, this
Yep.
is when that
Um,
catch-up happens.
And this is also find out that Alton named his successor should he have died.
Before leaving for the
And-
mountain.
Yeah, and the successor isn't Chagan, who's the second in command.
Well, and Chagan doesn't
It's
want
Rin.
it. Chagan has also said he doesn't. He was never in
Yeah.
line for it in the first place because he's not Nakara.
Yep.
Yeah, but like you'd assume it would be the second in command, right? So you're like, oh, okay. Well, Alton said so. Chagan's in charge, but then turns out it's actually Rin, who
Yep.
then
And then Chagan's
swears
like-
revenge.
Well, it's funny.
Yep.
He's like, she's like, you're gonna burn this for him, and she's like, yup, and you can't stop me. He goes, oh no, I'm coming with you. Fuck this.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I
He's just
do.
like, you're literally gonna burn down this country to get your revenge, aren't you? And she's like, yep. He's like, cool, I'm down. Let's go.
Which like I do
Which
kind.
like ride or
I do
die.
kind of
friends.
love. Yeah.
Like he's her ride or die, and she had barely any interaction.
Well, the whole thing
I
is,
love it.
Yup.
a lot of their interactions before had been kind of vying for Alton's like attention or like a weird rivalry-esque thing, and now that that's kind of been removed, they're kind of able to operate together.
W-
Yup.
But like the absolute mood of the like, are you gonna kill everybody? And she's like, oh yeah, 100%. And he's like, cool, boo, I got you.
Yeah, well, she's like, oh no, I'm gonna go dethrone the Empress because fuck that bitch, and he's like, all right, let's go.
Mhm.
And I'm like,
Yep.
oh my god, Rin, this is a terrible, ma'am.
Man, this is a terrible idea.
Terrible idea. Which like is very on brand for her, but also, oh my god, stop it. I
Yeah.
will
Oh
say,
yeah, here it is. You're gonna paint the world in Alton's blood, aren't you? I'm gonna find and kill everyone responsible. You can't stop me. He laughed a dry, cutting laugh. Oh, I'm not going to stop you. He held out his hand. And like, that's just like, okay.
I love that. And the thing is, I think most of the psych will go with her.
Oh, absolutely.
I think Kite's gonna have to get dropped off somewhere though, because he's not gonna jive with this plan.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
If it makes you feel any better, we do see Nezin in the second book.
We do?
We do.
you cannot spoil that he's not dead.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it was a spoiler.
this.
What do you mean you didn't realize it was a spoiler?
Ma'am, literally the last thing that we see is Nezha going into mustard gas.
Okay, but it's mustard gas. Lots of people survive mustard gas.
Right, but like the implication is that he's very dead, and we have no reason to believe otherwise, except for a throwaway line.
Very sorry.
No. We do have some reason to believe. We do have some reason to believe that he is alive because of what happened with his spine.
No. So
Because
that's what I was
if
gonna
we
say.
remember correctly,
Is there's a
the,
throwaway
the
line
dragon-
from our
the-
medic man who's like, "There's no way this kid should be
Yeah.
walking," but in book 1, you think that's just a throwaway line.
Which fair,
But the
and
thing-
I did
but-
not
but-
spoil
but-
any of the other Nezin things that come up in book 2.
But anyways, what I was going to say is that he walks into Coeur d'Alene. I believe Kara is with Rin at that point, and Kara's just like, "Isn't that the guy who got, run
Yeeted.
through?" And Rin's just like, "Yeah," and she's just like, "Is he a shaman?"
No, she's not the one who asks her that. It is.
Oh, who was that?
I'm looking at it's Enki.
I know
It's
it
Enki.
was someone.
It's Enki.
I know it was some. Okay, yeah. Okay, Enki was the one who did that, and he was like, "Is he a shaman? I'm getting vibes. Like, this mother trucker is giving me some vibes."
Right.
Some vibes.
But then he, quote
And
unquote,
It
dies
could
like
also,
a chapter later, so it becomes
Right.
maybe irrelevant.
I'm
but
sorry.
you're also just kind of like, maybe there is something to that.
Sure.
Okay, but, like,
Which I guess now there is something to that.
I am actually very sorry for accidental spoilers.
It happens. But what I was gonna say is, I think one of my like really lovely like phrases for this book is ending with making Rin the commander and just kind of having her set her goal and then ending it. I think sets up book 2 really nicely because we know what direction we're going.
Murder.
Oh yeah, we're going on the warpath. We are
Right.
gonna fuck shit up.
Right, and I think it sets that up really nicely, and that
It
like
does.
I think she's gonna. I plan on reading the other 2. I don't know that we'll do them for book club, especially since we're taking a month off. But I will read the rest of them probably. So, but I like that she's going to be able to kind of just dive into book 2. Like she's not going to need a ton of like precursor stuff because she's already done the setup
yeah.
work. Like that's really
So
cool.
So what was that about? Not being able to fill 3 hours of book club?
Yeah, I couldn't when it was just me talking.
We helped.
I know that was part of the reason I wanted you here.
We derail a little bit, but it's
spoilers,
fine.
I'm sorry.
It's fine.
I'm also like not the most shocked that he's not dead. I just technically
Same.
didn't know.
I'm
Also same.
sorry. I'm really sorry.
It just means now we can find cool
You know-
foreshadowing moments when
you
we go to
know-
read 2.
Okay, but also now that I know Nezha's alive, I want to see Nezha Rin romance.
Yeah, me too. I want that way more than I
I want
wanted
to see
Alton.
that interaction.
Me too.
I want to see that interaction because you see it just a tiny little bit in Coeur d'Alene, and I'm just
me-
like, I want more.
Give me
want
childhood
more.
enemies to lovers, please.
I am going to sit here with my
Oh.
knowledge and say nothing.
No, you shouldn't. Please don't. But
Please say nothing.
the
I
other
said nothing.
the other thing that I was gonna say to move off of things that we don't know. I like the way that this world is built a lot because both just because
yes.
I think it's really cool, but like more specifically because like you can do this and like connect it on like historical fiction and like connect it to China and Japan and everything, or you can just read the nations as they are and it works just as well.
Yeah. It's
Like,
really nice.
That
For
tells
me, I have a hard time with
that.
it.
See, that's the thing. I ignored geography for the whole fucking book. I didn't look into any real world shit until after. Because, like, I just didn't want to. I wanted to experience the world for what it was. And I think it's a huge credit to R.F. Kuang as a writer that she is able to set up the universe and have it function both parallel to what she's referencing it to, but also by itself.
And can
'Cause,
we
like-
also talk about the titles of the next 2 books?
I actually
Because
don't know the
they are
titles, so feel free
immaculate.
to enlighten
So
me.
the second one is The Dragon Republic,
Love that.
which may be foreshadowing of the type of government Rin's gonna try and set up.
Well, she has to do a lot more shit before that happens, but yeah.
I know. And then the third one is called The Burning God.
Ooh, I like that title.
And if we keep things in mind, perhaps at the end of book 3, Rin will have to be the one who has to be interred in Kulukorik.
I mean, she's already said at the end of book 1 that she probably should be.
It's also worth noting that
Oh,
one of
yeah.
the reviews for all of these books is time to cry and talk about Rin making wrong decisions only.
Oh my god, yes.
Glad to see she literally never changes. God bless.
We're just gonna look at this child throughout the whole entire series and go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it's no spoilers, but it's just Rin makes bad decisions repeatedly, which is a really humanizing aspect.
To be fair, it's so on brand for her at this point. No, not at all.
Are we really?
In all honesty, it's part of the reason why I think like Jang teaching her versus Alton teaching her struck me as heavily as it did, because it truly was like the way that she quote unquote should be versus the way that she wanted to be.
Yeah.
And she took the latter, and like I don't blame her, but also you're an idiot.
Yeah, she is.
She is truly such a good example of you are so smart and so stupid.
So dumb.
It's like you make such
I have those moments myself.
Such an idiot.
Yeah, but you and I don't make dumb decisions that like end entire nations.
I mean, I don't end entire nations, but I've ended my own existence. Kinda, sorta.
Oh,
that
God.
That read wrong in my head. I'm sorry. I have made bad decisions that threatened my existence. That's a better way of putting it.
Because that's not where my brain went with that.
I promise I'm not making fun of you, but the way that you said that followed by just the deadpan silence.
Of probably the both of us going, how the fuck do I respond to that?
No, this is 2 glasses of wine and I'm tired. So the words made sense in my head, they did not make sense coming out of my mouth.
Oh god. Anyway, shit.
Anyway, here's Wonderwall.
Oh, that was beautiful. So fucking funny.
I'm glad.
The other credit that I was gonna give to the construction of the world, and like I'm sure some of this is attached to Chinese religion. I'm not super familiar with the Chinese pantheon, but I love like the concept of like the shamans and like having the way that the gods are, and like that whole section is just like so cool to me. I love that a lot. And like being able to tie that to such like a secular world in a way that felt like reasonable, I think is like vaguely difficult to do.
Oh, it came out really, really well.
Yeah. No,
it didn't read as like overwhelming, I guess is the best way to put it.
Not overwhelming for us anyway. Overwhelming for Rin maybe.
Yes, but like not overwhelming for the reader.
Yeah, no, she does it very much in a way of like, this is a fuck ton of information, so I'm not
There
gonna
you
give it to
go.
you all at once. It's
Yeah.
like, cool,
Mm.
thanks. The only like place where I feel like she gets a little like exposition dump-esque is the puppet show.
Yeah, the
When they're
puppet show.
explaining the trifecta.
Yeah.
However, I argue
But I
that
think
is an
that
excellent
was
and entertaining way
necessary.
to do it.
Yeah.
It was. It was great.
The puppet show was a lot, but it was a really good way to do a lot.
Yeah, no, because we needed that story. And I
Yeah.
think like that's a much more fun way to do it than just have someone like exposition dumping. But at the same time, I don't know how you get that story without someone just telling it. So,
With the way that she set up Rin, there isn't a way to get it without
like,
somebody just dumping it.
well, and even if it was a thing of like Rin already knew the story and she was telling it for the reader, it would still be an exposition dump regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So that little
So-
like puppet show was glorious.
I think it's a great middle ground between having to just dump some information on you but making it like more palatable.
Yeah, for sure.
Nah. Favorite character is Jang. I kind of don't like Alton.
I hate Alton.
I think he's an excellent, well-written character, and I love him for how well done he is. I also think
wanna
he
stab
us-
him repeatedly.
Well, I think he uses his anger and his trauma as an excuse to do things that are not like socially acceptable to people that he supposedly cares
Exactly.
about.
Exactly.
Yes.
And it just kind of makes me not like him.
Out of all of them, Jang is still probably my favorite.
He's so good.
He is.
It's like him and like the surprising dark horse of Neza.
Yeah.
I still don't like Neza.
Same.
I think it's fine to not like him. I am extremely surprised to find that I kind of do at this juncture.
Yeah, I couldn't get on board. I'm like, oh no, you fucked over Rin. No. Go die in a hole.
Yeah, which like that's also totally fair. I
Yeah.
think for me it was a thing of like most of their conflict was just dumbass school shit that like did not matter.
I see it more black and white than that for some reason.
Which, and like to be totally clear, both takes make perfect sense. I'm not.
Oh yeah.
I like for her to like to be like, no, you were a dick to me. I don't want to be around you. He can be like, I've changed, and she can be like, that's great, I don't care. Like, that's a totally valid, like, boundary to draw, and I think that would have also made just as much sense for her character.
Yeah, I had a hard part with that because I find that when people are assholes, that boundary has to be drawn or else they continue to be assholes.
Yeah, well, and I've had to draw that in my own life, so, like, I get it completely. I like that we are able to see him change. Like, even if he doesn't stick around long term, because obviously I have no idea. But I like that we kind of got to see him kind of get slapped around a little bit and, like, woken up a little bit. Because I don't necessarily think that he was ever a bad person. I think he was just an extremely privileged kid. And I think once he figured that out, he probably shaped up pretty quickly.
With character development.
Yeah.
Full stop. The character development across the whole book was phenomenal.
Except for Rin occasionally, because God bless child.
But even that, like, she was young. She was abused. She had
I know.
trauma, and she had no idea what to do with herself, so she just guessed.
Oh, I know. She's just the big
Yeah.
dumb sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
But even
definitely.
that made sense.
Yep. I
So-
think that's one of my bigger praises for this book is even when characters do something that like pisses me off,
I
I
get why.
understand it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree, but like it at least doesn't feel like some random dumbass action.
Yeah, it's not like the random romance moment that shows up in the middle of a book between two characters that hated each other 3 chapters prior.
Right. Like if
All of it makes sense.
I I'm not anti like romance in a book like this. It was
Neither
kind
am
of nice for it to not be there for once at the same time.
Yeah,
Right.
it
Just
was a
because
nice
like
change.
I truly just feel like there were more important things happening.
Like, genocide and
Right. And like
everything else.
again, not like people get together in
Yeah.
wartime, like that's a very normal thing. And like I've read plenty of books where it's in it and it's done well, and that's also completely fine.
But
I
it
just
didn't fit this book.
no, I think it would have been incredibly shoehorned to try to put it in. Because
Yeah,
like
sure.
Yeah.
there were so many times where she was just trying to stay alive. It's like she doesn't have time to like be romantically involved with a person. Like the only time they even really discuss her and Alton getting together is Ramza asks if they're going to like repopulate the Spearly race, and she's like, I can't.
Guess what? Can't.
So, as the unable to reproduce without doctor intervention polyamorous person,
Yeah.
it would have felt weird to me to see them try and shoehorn a romance into that book. There's just too much going on.
I mean, like truly, just there are other priorities.
Yeah, like there's so
Yes.
many other priorities. Like, I'm all about finding love in unconventional places. Absolutely, 100%. I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are situations where it's appropriate to do that, and there's situations where you literally do not have the brain space, and this was one
Right.
of those where you literally do not have the brain space.
Right, so like a good example of a book that I enjoy for as cheesy as it is in spots, I actually really like The Host.
Oh, I do too.
Much
It's such a good book.
well, I rag on Twilight all day long, yes, but I like The Host. And The
Mood.
Host is kind of a fun balance of they are in this kind of survival mode, but it's not in the same way, and it allows for a lot more like human interaction and like feelings and like emotional turmoil versus
And
this
we're not
book.
talking about genocide.
Right, but it's like versus this book, which is like literal survival. It's a different kind of like survival game in each book, and one of them, the more like emotional romance side, like plays pretty well, and I don't think it would have worked in here. But at the same time, I think The Host kind of needed something like that because it was such an emotionally driven story.
Well, it's the same thing with The Hunger Games, right? The Hunger Games was a incredibly emotionally driven story, and that entire series is incredibly emotionally driven.
Right.
So a romance fits.
Right.
This is not emotionally driven. This is
I mean, it
driven-
is, but not in the same way.
no, not like it's driven based off of fear.
It's
Not
fear and anger and survival and like
Yeah.
identity crises and like
it's not. This is not the time to start exploring the in the pants feelings.
it's different. Just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
is this considered a YA book or is this considered like adult fiction or what?
I would believe that this has been considered adult fiction, considering it has the genre label grimdark.
Fair.
I would also see the pregnant lady part and call that adult fiction.
I mean, look,
Yeah,
YA
I'd say
has some
Golden
fucked up
Niece.
shit in it, okay?
YA has some fucked up
mm.
shit in it, but not that fucked up.
It do, but I don't think that Golden Niece would really be YA.
No,
if we're gonna be like real here.
I was mostly just curious because sometimes that line gets blurred pretty hard.
No, I
I'd
agree
say
with you.
it's probably on like the very older end of YA. If we're gonna stick it in there, but even then that kind of feels a little iffy.
No, I agree.
But it makes sense considering the age of the protagonist.
See, and that's kind of what was getting me is a lot of adult fiction, like not YA books, have an older
Right.
protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, I definitely want to read the rest of these. I don't think we'll do them for book club just because
Which
Doing
is
it-
sad,
doing-
but understandable.
doing an entire series on book club is hard because of how long that would take.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Also, I mentioned this at the top of stream, but I'm taking a month off of book club because I'm traveling a bunch next month. And I don't
Yeah.
want to wait that fucking long to read the second book.
Mood.
I don't want to wait until
Ew.
October. No. I was looking at my calendar trying to schedule September, and it's just, nope. Nope.
I wonder if I can probably convince.
Without giving away too much of my personal to-do, I've got an anniversary and 2 weddings in the same month.
Ooh.
Yeah.
My anniversary is until November for one, and my anniversary just passed for the other.
Well,
so
happy late and early anniversary.
thank you. I appreciate it.
Also, I don't think this is controversial. I do like Chang'un. I kind of didn't say that earlier.
He's
He's-
definitely an interesting being.
He's a little cheeky, but I kind of like him.
I do too. He's
Mood.
fun. Much as
Um,
I would like to stay here until midnight and chat.
well, that's what I was
have
gonna
to-
say.
Yeah,
We're
I have
getting
to
ready to
work
wrap.
at 9 tomorrow morning.
No, we're getting ready to
so-
wrap. So go
Yeah.
ahead,
we should.
Lottie. Give me final thoughts. Do you recommend we read it? Any just final closing whatever, and you can say goodnight at the same time if you wish.
Have maybe read the entire series before book club because I have problems.
Mood.
So
Love
if
that
you
for you.
enjoy the grimdark fantasy stuff with a little touch of historical accuracy, I would 100% recommend it.
Oh man, you know I'm a slut for historical fiction. It's fine.
Oh, bitch, I know.
It's
I'm-
fine.
I'm a Warhammer 40k player, so the grimdark got me.
Can we?
Um,
I've tried to write historical fiction. That shit is hard.
It is.
It is.
And the fact that they did it A, so well, and B, with the amount of fictionalization that makes it appealing
Yeah,
to people
like-
who don't like historical fiction, made it
She made
amazing.
historical fiction fantasy.
And
And
it's
that's
beautiful.
what really just burrs my brain.
And it works.
It's the Burr Brain on steroids. It
Yep.
was such a good book. The rest of them are also equally good, so I would recommend reading them. I will not give my viewpoint on the final ending for reasons,
Well, yeah.
but I would read the
Not.
entire series. It is worth it.
I will get there eventually.
Yeah, I gotta go buy the other books. I don't have them yet.
Same.
I have them on my Kindle.
Yeah, so the problem is because I own the first one in a physical copy, I now feel obligated to own the whole series in physical copies because my brain.
See, I'm the same way.
Same.
My problem is buying books in physical copies for me is painful and expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Given that it is August and I have read at this point a book a day.
yeah.
So
No, I use the hell out of my Kindle. I read the entire Harry Dresden series on my Kindle. But
Kindle Unlimited, man.
I happened to pick this up in a physical copy, which means I'll probably get 2 and 3 in physical copies because of who I am as a person.
They are, however,
Good.
worth it.
Oh no,
100%
yeah,
worth it.
not arguing that at all. But anyway, you get on to bed.
I will go to bed. Good night, everybody. I will see you all later.
Good night.
Okay. Would you like to give any final thoughts and things? You don't have to leave the Discord. I'll probably just mute to read out.
I would say that for anybody who's stuck around this whole entire 3.5 hours, power to you for listening us to nerd out.
I did advertise
But-
that that's what this would be.
That you have a point. For anyone who's usually like really into one camp of these genres and doesn't really particularly like the other ones, I would recommend giving this book a try, because you might think that historical fiction and fantasy wouldn't work together, but really R.F. Kuang does a fantastic job of tying in the real world elements of what happened while also making this an entirely fictional world with its own lore and even its own magic system. And
Yeah.
it's a great, well constructed piece of literature.
Yeah, just to be like super clear, you don't have to give a shit about history for this book to make sense.
Oh no.
I'm really not kidding when I tell y'all I did not connect a single bit of history to this while I was reading it because I just didn't have that like part of my brain tuned in. Like I just didn't.
mean,
I got to the end and like
I
she
did.
Right, but you are more of a history buff, so it makes sense that you would connect it and you knew it was historical fiction going in.
That is also true.
You got to remember I purposely didn't look up shit.
Yeah,
So I
I
didn't know
can't blame
anything.
you for that.
But like, so I didn't know anything. So I got to the end of the book and was like, oh, she studies like Chinese history and like World War II, and then my brain kind of started like drawing lines. But I really like read the whole
Yeah.
last book, not thinking about those connections at all, and still had a great time. So, all
It is a great time.
right, let me deafen to raid out. You can hang out if you wish.
Yeah.
So that's the Poppy War. Like I said, I'll probably read the sequels on my own time. If any of you end up wanting to read the sequels on your own time, please, please, please feel free to hop into book club at the Discord and talk about them. I do ask that you spoiler tag anything like that, just because there are people actively reading the series right now. But I hope y'all enjoyed this. I know this was a little bit less engaging with chat. I did love Zombie's comment coming in, just concerned about my well-being. That was great. But it was a little more like podcasty. So hopefully that was entertaining for y'all. It definitely saved my voice, because I wasn't like talking the entire time, and I was able to kind of not pass the torch at all, but like wasn't having to do quite everything myself. What am I reading next month? So September we are going to be taking off because I have a lot of like travel IRL stuff I got to take care of next month. That there's a pretty solid chance that if I tried to do a book club in September, I would end up having to cancel it anyway. So we're going to take September off. Once I get my October schedule a little bit laid out, that's when I will give y'all the dates for October book club, because I do want to pick it back up in October. We'll probably read a scary book because of who I am as a person, and also it's October. And we do still have to plan the community night stream with like Fall Guys or Warframe or whatever, and the Elden Ring stream that y'all voted for. Spoop. I know. Are you gonna be okay if I pick a scary book, Leaf? No, I haven't picked a book for October yet.
Ooh.
Hello, Sentinel. Yes, okay. I can handle scary book. Yeah. I haven't decided what we're doing yet. I'm trying to decide if I want to do something that I've already read but is kind of a classic, or if I want to read something new for Spooky Month. Because Spooky Month, because I read a good chunk of horror on my own time, it would be pretty easy for me to pull out something I've already read. But I might do that. I might do something new. I really, truly, like, have not gotten that far yet, because I need to schedule the ding-dang thing first. Scary movie is just no-go. Yeah, the visuals in a movie can make it rough. Reading, like, books like that can be easier. Anyway, I'm derailing. Did you... Ooh, when you heard Elden Ring. Probably. So, let me see who we have that is live. Alright, I've got two options for y'all. I'm gonna let y'all vote. As soon as I find where I put my poll thing. There it is. New poll. Choose your raid. Okay, go, go, go. So Becca was playing Ark, but I think she might be going to Fortnite if she hasn't already. She talked about wanting to play with bats. And Gerbigli is the other vote because he's playing some of the boyfriend dungeon stuff because the new boyfriend dungeon content is out. I did not realize that until the other day, and now I gotta go play boyfriend dungeon at some point. Yep, there's DLC. I really want to just like binge it, but I also know y'all wanted to see me play the DLC, so I might. When we finish Chain of Memories, I might take a quick detour to Boyfriend Dungeon DLC and play that super fast, and then keep going into Cage 2. We'll see. Why are there so many things taking me away from my island? I mean, it's not like the island's going anywhere. Always. Ooh, fucking woo, BB. I cannot believe that we don't have a fucking ooh woo emote, to be honest. I don't know how that didn't happen just as a meme. Okay, we are raiding a Beckaboo. No, mute. I was the lone vote on the poll, fucking rip. That's okay. Somebody voted, that's all I needed. Realistically, if nobody had voted, I just would have made an executive decision, so it's cool. But if you would like to be in the Discord, please make sure you grab that link from chat. Our lovely LeafSpring himself is throwing that up, as well as the links to the social media and the YouTube. YouTube is pretty much up to date beyond this week's videos, and I still need to upload the special Stray stream, as well as the It Takes Two stream with Becca, because our internet's been having problems. But they're coming. I just have to queue them up when we're going to be out for a little bit, I think. So, those are all up. We are going to raid a Bravo Becca. Y'all know her. Y'all love her. She is a lovely mod. So we're going to go say hello and wish her a lovely happy Friday into the weekend. She did just have her first Final Fantasy stream yesterday, so feel free to ask how that went if you weren't there. Thanks for the stream as always. Thank you, Carrot Cake. I appreciate you coming around. So, I am going to hit that ending soon screen. We will be live Monday with Chain of Memories. It was filled with chaos, you're correct. And I will let y'all know on all the book club and all the special streams, and we'll do a stream to finish Stray. I just got to get it all on the calendar. I promise it's all coming down the pipeline. Next month is just super fucking busy, and I'm trying to not take a million years to get through Chain of Memories. So, I'm gonna hit this ending soon screen, and I will see y'all next week, if not in the Discord before then.